Hello, everybody. Welcome to the World of Brickfilms podcast. I am your host, William of OW Studios. Joining with me, as always, is my good friend and co-host, Sean Widdis of City Penta.
Hello again.
And our special guest today is the winner of BRAWL 2022, Phil of BrickTavernFilms. Hello.
Hi, happy to be here.
Well, first off, I was going to say congratulations. Endless was an amazing film. I think this BRAWL has been kind of like, there's been so many films that kind of like, it was really hard to tell like where they were placed. And like, I think Endless was kind of, in amongst all of that, was like a clear winner, I think, in my opinion.
I agree.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, oftentimes with contests, we do have a pretty solid idea of like, there's three entries that like pull ahead. It's like, yeah, obviously those are going to be the top three. But with this one, it was very, very hard to say. Like, there's plenty of entries that, I if they placed top three, I would have been like, yep, that makes sense to me. Even if they weren't my favorites, then it would still make sense. But Endless, I think, is an absolutely solid number one that a lot of people were expecting.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. It's always nice to hear people talk about it. Very flattering.
Yeah. So, did you make that by yourself or with your brother?
Yeah, so we're a two-man show. So it's myself, Phil, and my brother Alex. Yeah, we work on everything together. So we both made that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay,
yeah, the reason I'm here only instead of both of us is because, well, like we're twins and our voices are pretty much the exact same, and I think it'd be kind of hell to like differentiate or figure out who's talking, and spare the headaches. It's just me here.
Yeah,
so yeah.
Although you could have like, pretended to be both of you, I guess.
Yeah, I suppose. I don't know about that. Doesn't sound very fun.
But yeah, I was kind of wondering because yeah, I mean, I make everything with my brother as well. But like sometimes in brick filming, there's like brother duos, but then after a while, it's kind of one of them really running the show. But
Yeah,
so
well,
it's cool to hear that.
I
Has it always
yeah.
been both of you since the
Yeah,
beginning?
always the both of us. I don't run the show. Like I think the only reason I'm here, I think, is because like it's my turn. Like the last time was a few years ago. He was on some podcast, so like, my turn now.
Yeah.
We're pretty equal.
That's cool. So, like, I'm assuming then, like, because I guess with the thing that I always find interesting about, like, I guess, like, siblings who work together in this sort of sense is, like, how you kind of split up, I guess, the work. And I guess, are you both, like, animators? Do you both kind of, like, pretty much do 50-50?
Well, 50-50, yeah, but not like I do not know how to animate, believe it or not.
All right.
I do all the editing. He does animating, because I don't know. I guess after a few videos, we've both mastered the things that we were working on. So now we just stick to those. So he does all the animating. I do the editing. He does a lot of the voice acting, but I do voice acting sometimes, and everything creative is both of us, because that's
so
not
set
negotiable.
design, both of you?
Yeah, set design, both of us. Story, sound design, all that's both of us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the sets are incredible. Not just in the BRAWL entry, but also in the Batman films as well.
Oh yeah, thanks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Put a lot of effort
So
into
actually,
that.
I wonder, like, do you have any inspirations behind the set design? Because like it's better than most brick films you see.
Yeah, I would say every set I kind of tap into that some sort of aesthetic that I've seen somewhere else or been inspired by somewhere else, and then try to channel that, or capture that vibe that gives it that kind of quality, that immersiveness. So like for Endless, the submarine, I mean, if I just want to build a submarine, I just think about the best submarine I could possibly imagine, and then just a lot of details, just greebling everywhere, dark, kind of grimy, a lot of alarms, a lot of lights, that kind of thing. So then yeah, we just try to recreate that image that we have.
Yeah, because in watching the Batman films, like, it also stood out that like it really felt like a real world with the amount of sets, and like they were just really good
Thanks.
sets and
Yeah.
good lighting and everything.
Yeah, I try
Uh,
to focus on immersiveness. I think that's
yeah,
pretty important.
like even when I saw Batman Black Mask, and like when it
Yeah.
starts, I was, the first time I saw it, I was kind of thinking like, yeah, this kind of just looks like a forest fire ripoff, like I've seen a million times before.
I,
And then
I admit, yes, yeah. Like, I mean, I was a child. Like
yeah,
that
yeah,
was like 7 years
like
ago.
clearly it's like, I guess maybe you were like getting better as you were making the film, but like as it goes along, the
Yeah.
sets and the lighting suddenly become really good, and then by the time it gets to the chase sequence through the tunnel, I was like, oh my god, this is actually like
Yeah,
amazing now, and
yeah.
it's become its own thing.
The chase scene is fantastic. I really enjoyed that part of
Oh,
that
thank you.
film.
Yeah,
Yeah. Like I just thought, okay, restaurant. Well, let's have some dark lighting. Let's have some real LEDs in there, and then that kind of makes it a little more immersive. And then, oh, chase scene. Just go all out. Just make everything, the best we can possibly imagine it. And then, one thing leads to another, and then there we go.
yeah.
I always do. I find that kind of seeing progress gradually be kind of made within a brick film really engaging.
Yeah.
And I think especially like if you kind of go into it that mindset of like always wanting to try new things when you make a new brick film and sort of like want to kind of like try things are going to be difficult, try new challenges and just really experiment and do things that like just that you haven't done before. And I think it really shows, and it really kind of like makes making brick films just continue to be fresh and just you can see that progression just gradually go.
Yeah. I feel like I'm emerging from the forest fire wannabe kind of thing, and then I'm developing my own style, or our own style, me and Alex.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And then by the time you get to the Killer Croc one, it's like, yeah, you can still sense the forest fire influence, but like it doesn't just feel like a straight rip off from the like at the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it has become its own style while retaining
exactly.
the influence.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, the Killer Croc film is amazing.
Oh, thank you.
And especially for being 22 minutes long.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I wasn't planning on that, or we weren't planning on that. It's just the story kept getting fixed and padded, and then polished, and then before I know it, it's 22 minutes. Same thing with my new one, like now we're making a poison ivy one. I can't say it's gonna be like 22 minutes, but I thought it would be like 8, and it's just getting stretched out, like not needlessly. It just keeps getting more and more, and yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask, how long is that one going to be?
I mean, it's not done, but right now I'm gonna project it's gonna be like 16 minutes, I would say.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was also impressed that the Killer Croc film, it really felt comic book like.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah.
certainly something we tried to instill. Like
Yeah,
with
you can tell.
Yeah, like with the transitions, I think,
Hmm.
or like
Like
the
even just the visuals on their own, just how the sets and the light and the colors look.
yeah, that's true. Yeah,
And I
Yeah,
guess
kind
the
of.
scenarios as well.
I definitely felt that with the Killer Croc film, especially. Like it felt like a different like the Gotham just felt like kind of like real and alive and
Yeah.
Oh,
like
perfect.
something that I've seen in the Batman films and
Well, beautiful. That's what I was going for.
And then of course by the time you get to the later scenes in the sewer, the sets are incredible.
Yeah, we actually built a whole other sewer set for that, but we just couldn't get the lighting right, so we scrapped the whole thing. And like you could see a bit of it in like a computer scene. I don't know. It's very small detail. I don't even know why I'm mentioning this. Just a little fun fact. But like, yeah, we're very picky about our sets.
Hmm. And I mean, you must be able to work pretty fast. I mean, not only with long films like this, but also obviously the BRAWL entry that just won. Like, that was
Yeah.
a lot of set design and a pretty long film as well for BRAWL.
Yeah. Well, normally we take a long time. Like this new Poison Ivy one, we started. What year is it? Like 5 years ago, I think.
Oh wow.
And
oh, okay.
but yeah, life keeps getting in the way. But
Yeah, of course.
we
But,
had
I know
we had
the,
a free
the
week for
description.
Brawl, so
The description of the Killer Croc film says that it took a year and a half, but like to me, that's really impressive that you did a 22-minute brick film in a year and a half.
oh yeah,
It took me 2 years to do a 10-minute brick film.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I'm currently in the process of so I have my Appman series. I'm kind of like I'd say about a week away from actually starting to actually animate it. I'm really excited about it, but I started writing the script in early 2021, and I've had about a year and a half of prep. So yeah, that's just about the pre-production stage. Has taken as long as Killer Crocs.
damn, yeah. If I tried, to be fair, if I tried to make Killer Croc again now, it would take probably 3 times as long, just because.
Yeah, that's the way it goes.
That's the thing. Like that is just the saddest kind of, I guess, reality of that, isn't it? It's like when you make something really impressive and really big, and it takes a long time. You try doing that again, it's just gonna take even longer from just the amount you've learned and planning it all.
Even longer. But also, I was in high school when I did that, so considerably more time on my hands compared to now. So.
And of course, obviously we like to push the idea that like people shouldn't be particularly concerned with views and whatnot, but like there is a bit of a concern over diminishing returns.
Yeah. Well, I don't care. Like,
well, yeah, that's good.
Just got demonetized. don't really care.
But I mean, I was even surprised with the Killer Croc film. I mean, obviously 86,000 views is like amazing, and like I don't get anywhere close to that on any big film, and I'm happy with the attention that my stuff gets. But like, I kind of thought like for such a massive Batman big film, I expected this to have a lot more.
Yeah, honestly, me too. But like,
of course, it doesn't.
Okay.
It doesn't actually matter. But I was still surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the algorithm is just so kind of like bizarre at this point. It's like there doesn't seem to be any kind of logic to it in terms of just like the brick films that kind of seem to do well and not like, because I was just thinking then like when it comes to like IP based brick films in general, like there's such a wild sort of varied kind of scale of views. Like some seem to get like a couple hundred views, and then others get like hundreds of thousands of views, and there doesn't seem to be much kind of like difference between them.
Well, something I did identify, I think, is like the 22-minute Killer Croc thing. It is pretty like slow. Like the pace is not super fast, and I feel like the things that are doing well now are very quippy and like one cut, like 10 cuts in like seconds or whatever, and that probably appeals more to a short attention span. That's probably why it does better.
Younger
but,
people,
whatever.
That makes sense. But it's good to hear that you care more about just making the stuff you want to make.
Yeah.
Because, actually, I guess you're kind of from the sort of era of like I guess you could say Instagram brick filmers.
Could be. Yeah.
And it's always seemed to me like most of those people who were really big in like, I guess 2016 to 2018-ish, I don't know. It seems like most of them didn't really continue with brick filming. I mean, I know that's kind of the way brick filming goes. Like, people start college and then like in many cases that's it. But like, it seems like more so with that sort of scene. You look at all the names, you're like, oh, like barely any of these people are active. Like even doing one film a year anymore. But so it's nice to see that you are still around.
Oh yeah, thanks. Yeah. I think I just love it enough.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I'd have to imagine that, obviously I don't want to like speculate on what motivates other people, but like, hearing you talk now about like not really caring about the views and being willing to make the sort of longer and slower films, and I have to imagine that keeps people around longer, like just passion projects and not really paying attention to metrics and whatnot.
Yeah, I suppose it's a little more real.
Mm-hmm. And like, obviously I'm not saying that all those other people did stuff purely for views, but like perhaps it was more so of another motivating factor that kind of fell off with the changes to YouTube.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's why it's like a sense of like, I kind of understand people kind of getting wrapped up in the idea that like it is something that should matter kind of thing, even if like I mean, I think I've had that phase myself, but I managed to kind of like get over that phase kind of very early on. But like you know, I totally get it. Like you see, you know, like I think a lot of people are, you know, maybe inspired by Brickfilms that are like really big, especially if like they've come across them to get that exposure. You know, statistically, they've probably come across Brickfilms that are like really big and you know, got lots of views. And I think, you know, when you're kind of starting out, you kind of, your main influences are going to be, you know, those things. And like if you don't end up getting that same kind of view count, you're gonna like wonder like, you know, what am I doing wrong, you know? And
or if you do have it for a while but then it goes away, which is, you know, pretty common, especially with the way YouTube went.
That must stink to have had it, you know. And then
like that appreciation you'd get from all the views. I mean, it is a motivating factor. Like I think I decided to do Brawl and like, you know, release a trailer recently. I think I made like 3 videos this past year, and then in the past 2 years I've also made those same 3 videos. Like it's just the, you know, the appreciation that you get from, you know, everyone seeing it and everything. It is pretty motivating. It feels kind of good.
And of course it's, you know, kind of interesting to me that like that sort of crowd that I was talking about, you know, they didn't really enter the Bricks in Motion contests, so we were sort of like,
that's, you know,
true. Slightly separate worlds. Like I would consider that to be, you know, a sort of a blind spot of mine. So like it's interesting now that you entered Brawl for the first time. Like I wonder.
Yeah, I did feel kind of like breaking out of my shell to enter Brawl, but it is something I've been, you know, spectating from a distance for many years. So figured it'd be cool to enter.
Yeah, and of course, like, yeah, we're all amazed. Like, we can't believe how large of a Brawl it was this year.
Yeah, that was really cool, yeah. What was it, like 130?
Yeah, 132 entries.
Yeah, damn.
And a couple of years ago, we never would have thought that Brawl would ever get over 100. Because, you know, it used to hover around like 30 to 40, whereas TAC would be like 60 to 70. But it just seems like we've been doing more videos on the YouTube channel. So I think that, like, you know, announcement videos on YouTube are more easily spread, I guess.
I think as well, like it's a kind of willingness to kind of sort of expose yourself to like all sorts of different platforms. Because like it is funny. Like you know, you can't go into it expecting to become really big, but like I think it helps with like the people that are kind of you know, sort of like actively following your stuff, like to see like you've got a presence on, you know, Twitter and Instagram and then YouTube, and I think as well, you know, you slowly start to gather up, you know, a larger audience from that. And,
but I guess also it's just the fact that like in doing more stuff on YouTube, it's like actually trying to reach out to people who aren't already, you know, part of the Bricks in Motion community. Because I guess, like, obviously we know that Bricks in Motion sort of had a bit of a snobby reputation for a long time, which, you know, was of course we always say it was like partially earned, but of course, you know, we still felt like, well, if you actually interacted with us, you know, you'd find that it's not that bad. But like, I guess in more recent years we've been more so trying to like actually reach out to people, rather than, you know, like I guess previously
I see that.
Brawl and TAC would just sort of coast along on the people who were already there. So, you know, you'd have pretty much the same entry count every year. I mean, even though it was different people, but it would still be similar enough every year. But I guess more recently we've really been trying to like say, yeah, here we are, hello.
Well, yeah,
you know, I mean, I think you can correct me if you think I'm wrong, Sean, but like I do kind of feel like I'd like to imagine at least we've kind of overcome that kind of reputation of being snobs.
Well, it's not for us to say, is it?
Yeah, I guess so.
Well,
I like to try.
I think you got it. Like, I would agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
And also,
I mean, certainly it back then, when I sort of took over as admin in 2017, that was like one of my top priorities, was to actually start talking to some more people. Especially if I found people who were talking, I'd engage with them, like not like, hey, I heard you were talking, you know, I'm gonna fight you now, but more just like
what do you say about
talk
us?
to them in a more like friendly manner and stuff. And I like to think that actually went a long way.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I remember like coming across like I think a couple of videos or something like. I remember there being this really quite good video about the clone training center.
that was one of them. Yeah.
Yeah, and like I remember like sort of writing quite a lengthy comment about like how actually like Clone Training Center was like actually really well received on Bricks in Motion.
That's
and
true,
like
yeah.
Fancy Pants in general was like really kind of like
A core member of Bricks in
beloved.
Motion
Yeah,
in
core
09,
member.
yeah.
I think there is kind of a balance though. Like I feel like retrospectively, like maybe the reputation of being like snobs was to some degree warranted, but
Yeah, it was. I'm never going to deny that.
But like I think it was a point of like recognizing that like sometimes it was like maybe over exaggerated, or maybe like it wasn't like there was like another side to it, and like
well for me in my mind I always bounce between considering it to have been over exaggerated and like if you were just to actually talk to people you'd find that it was alright, but then at the same time I look back at some of the old reviews on the website and I'm like, oh my god, this stuff is comical. It's just so serious.
Yeah, I think it's just like it is funny like nowadays to kind of like look back at like, and I think even I kind of did it, because like Bricks in Motion was still kind of like the forums were still like big, like when I started, and even I would have written like lengthy paragraphs of stuff, which just like nowadays it just seems so kind of like funny to think about. Like I remember like I had like a couple of like really cringy like snobby kind of things that I'd say it like I remember there was this really funny thing that I said, and I still think about it like to this day, like where I think it was like around like 2017 they released a couple of like stop motion Lego sets that were based around like the Lego movie or Lego Batman movie or something, and they were like really basic sets, but I remember like thinking like, oh no, now they're going to just like make brick filming too big, and they're gonna get and have like people who don't know what they're doing will start doing it, and I thought like I just thought like the kind of popularity of brick films being like a bad thing, like.
But
well, yeah,
I do think
then it's not like this niche thing anymore, and you don't feel special.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
But I feel like we can observe from the names of people who enter contests, and also just the fact that in the Discord every day you've got people showing films they're working on, and it's often IP films, but nobody's like, oh, another IP film, oh, go make something original. It is at the point where people just talk about the stuff they're working on, and like they don't have to be afraid of sharing that stuff.
Yeah.
I was actually gonna sort of point out, because I think we sort of mentioned it before, but like I guess you kind of started basically around the same time as me, because I started in really actively putting stuff online around 2015, and did you kind of I guess around the same time as well?
I think so. Let's see, my first video 7 years ago. Yeah, 2015. Yeah. Well, I was making. I was like, that wasn't my first attempt, or I should say R, because we're two people, but this wasn't our first attempt at a brick film. It's just the first one that we uploaded. Like, we'd been practicing since, I would say, like, we were like maybe even like just 10 years old. We would be making like just little tests, little things, and they were unwatchable, but built enough. Got our first video there, Lego Batman v Bane, a masterpiece. We uploaded that, and then went from there.
And so what were some of the other early influences apart from Forest Fire?
Definitely Mind Game Studios, who went by I think Zach MG. Yes. Yeah. He was a big influence. Some others I'm not sure if I remember their names, but that like Oblong Studios, I think.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, Some Guys in Space is pretty reminiscent of the Blacktron film.
Yeah. That's all I got on the top of my head, but
well, those are some classic names,
very
right
classic
there,
people. Like very I don't know, before like 2010. I think that's the time period, maybe before then, those kinds of people, or those kinds of brick films being released then, like Lego Pirates, like that 30-minute one.
Yeah, by Doug Vandergriff.
Okay, you know your stuff. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, that.
That's kind of similar kind of influences to me, actually, like stuff that I would have kind of seen when I was starting out, like things that were already, you know, like a few years old when I was sort of like, you know, starting out.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I feel
yeah.
like back then on YouTube, those would come up in the related videos more often. You know, some slightly older stuff, but well known, like well recognized
Yeah,
stuff.
it's hard to find those now. It's sad they
Yeah,
got
I
buried
mean,
forever. Like,
yeah, that's the thing. Like, it seems like recommended only wants to show you newer stuff now. Like, I feel like nobody talks about pirates anymore. But yeah, as you're saying, like even back in like 2015, you know, people would show up, brand new people, and they'd still know pirates.
Yeah,
Like,
well, that's
around
the
here.
thing. Like, I think back around like 2014, I was watching like mostly like the clips from the you know, like the Lego video games.
oh yeah,
So like I was watching the sort of like clip compilations of like, I think there was like Lego Parts Caribbean, and because of that, I came across Lego Pirates as like a recommended, and yeah, I don't know, I do agree. Like I feel like back then, like a lot of the stuff that I was seeing, like I would get recommended a lot of like old Brick films. Like I remember getting recommended Beast as well,
yeah,
and
Yeah.
classic.
That's a
and like,
staple. Yeah.
you know, quite a few, yeah, you know, films like that. I think probably, I think I must have, you know, you know, sure, I think one of your videos must have been like recommended as well.
Yeah. And it does feel kind of like it does seem like a shame that because of that system changing, I guess people aren't going to be so readily familiar with like what we consider to be the classics that everyone's heard of. It takes, I guess, a little bit more knowledge, just the tiniest bit of digging to actually
Yeah.
be familiar with, you know, yeah, stuff like that.
Well, I try to do digging so that I can
Yeah.
uncover these gems.
And I always sort of try to like feel around, like ask people questions that I want to sort of gauge what would be considered to be like the newer classics, but it just seems so spread out.
Yeah,
It's just not as concrete as it used to be. Like I wonder, since you were kind of in that like more sort of like superhero side of things,
Yeah.
you know, just in like 2016 or whatever, are there any films from that era like that were coming out at the same time as you were releasing stuff that you would consider to be like, you know, ultimate classics?
Let me think. Nothing really comes to mind. I mean, I guess the classics are always like, you know, the way older ones. Yeah, are
The
just
stuff
gonna
that
be
came
way
before
better.
what you were
But
making. Yeah. Yeah, of course. You always look at whatever came before you with the, yeah, rose tinted
Yeah.
glasses, I guess you could say.
yeah, I don't.
And it's always weird to then become, you know, part of the generation that is now before
Yeah,
the newer people, and they look at your stuff like that, and you're like, "What are you talking about? That's not from the
Yeah.
classic era. The classic era
Time
is
a
everything
crazy
that came
thing.
before my
Oh,
stuff."
the cleaners. That was not too old, but I
Yeah.
consider that to be amazing.
Ah, yeah. Actually, yeah, that's a instant classic. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's like one very exceptional film where you can point to that and say, yeah, pretty much everyone recognizes that as just, yeah,
Yeah,
stone cold classic.
I'm really glad to see like how, you know, how kind of how much of a reach that's had. Like I feel like so many people, you know, throughout the film community seem to always, you know,
Yeah.
cite that as
Yeah, it seems
an
like it
influence.
doesn't matter what side of the community they're from. Like everyone
Yeah.
is aware of that.
A certified hood classic.
Yeah, that's true. But we're always amused because like it seems pretty common that there's like brick films that are basically just like ripping off the cleaners, I guess you could say, like recreating shots from it, like doing the same set and the same lighting. And obviously it's pretty cool that like, you know, it's inspiring people to practice things that are good to get a handle on, like directional lighting and more complex set design and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can clearly see that it's like, yeah, not just well liked but also highly influential, which is the mark of a classic.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
I'm also kind of like, you know, really struggling to accept that, like, you know, that's like 4 years old.
Oh
now.
yeah, that's crazy to me. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
And that's the thing, is like it's kind of weird being like starting off in this sort of time where like HD quality, you know, HD brick films were kind of like, you know, that was like it was pretty much the norm, and like you know, now kind of going back to sort of thinking like, oh, those films are like, you know, 7-8 years old now.
Yeah. Or
that I was
yeah,
influenced on.
Just
you know.
thinking about that like 2016 time period, and like to me all of those brick films still feel brand new, like super contemporary, but that's just not the case anymore. Like it's starting to get on a bit.
The cleaners, I would consider it to be a new one, even though 4 years, like,
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, God, I remember back when was it like 2016? I think it was like Some Things Are Right and Mighty Wanderer both released like really amazing brick films in the same week, and um, it's really weird because I just think of like those like recent brick films. Well, it's like 6 years ago now.
Was that the last Brick film that Some Things Awry made?
I think it is. Yeah. I can't remember what it was called actually. What was
The Adventures of Kentucky Jackson.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
That was a.
didn't he go by a different name before?
Let me consult the wiki real quick. Bionicle 28 on the forum
yes.
for a long time.
That's how I know him.
Okay, yeah. I guess that must have been his YouTube name as well.
Yeah, because I did not know who Some Things Are Right is, but
Yeah.
yeah, it was a good one.
Oh no, it wasn't. It was his last brick film on his own channel, but he made a whole bunch for Lego after that. I just checked the wiki. I should have remembered that since I documented all of these. I had to go out of my way to figure out who actually made all of these things for Lego.
Well, you're doing the world.
Yeah,
a
well,
service.
someone has to.
Thank you.
Someone has to.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's funny. Like, really, with the wiki, like, I like to think that other people, check stuff, but largely it's just for my own benefit. I like to just look up stuff like right now.
I check it sometimes.
Cool.
Like, sometimes I find, it's a good way to discover new things.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes I do that.
Yeah, I mean, like we were saying with the older classics, not really showing up in recommended videos anymore. I like to think that the wiki is helping to keep them alive.
Yeah.
Like sort of taking over.
I think I found a few classics I've never even seen before just through that.
That too. If you look on the side of the wiki, there's a box called Popular Pages, and like Rick and Steve, the happiest gay couple in all the world, is always in Popular Pages. Which that always amuses me greatly because, for the longest time, those weren't even available to watch. Like they were just revived by the wiki.
Wow, yeah.
I do hope that people, other people are kind of the same as me in the sense that when I started out, I was just kind of curious because I was aware that there was a huge amount of history before me, and I kind of wanted to kind of know all about it. So I kind of just went through the entire wiki, and I'd look at Brickfilms based on year, and I think I started from 1970s onto 2015.
Yeah.
And I came across so many films that way. Honestly, back then that's probably there's probably so many films that were missing from the wiki that are on there now. But I did come across nonetheless a lot of the classic brick films just from the wiki there, so that's such an amazing source of
and
because
of stories like that, I do feel like I have somewhat of an obligation to get the 2010s years up to the same standard as the earlier ones. So that's why I say that's why I'm talking about asking people like you who are actually you started out in the mid 2010s or from a different era or from a different area than I was. That's why I'm trying to gauge what I should actually be making individual wiki pages on. But yeah, I feel like it's a shame that I haven't done that as extensively as for the earlier years, because if somebody was to go through all the individual years, then obviously they're not going to find as much in those 2015 onwards.
Yeah. But I don't know, it's hard to tell how much of that is actually because you're missing it or because they just don't exist.
I mean, I always like to think that it'll become clear with time, although by now time has passed since I was first putting a bunch of pages on the wiki, and it still feels not quite as clear. Obviously I just do contest winners and award winners instantly, but apart from that I'm should this have an individual page? Maybe, I don't know, it's hard to tell. It's much harder to tell than with the super old years.
I do think it's good that we've got things like the Brick Films of the Month to kind of keep an eye on what's coming out each month that outside of just contests, and hopefully that could be a kind of a decent source of I think there's a couple of Brick Films that I've come across from Brick Films of the Month that I'd like to think that would probably be wiki worthy.
I will say I do figure that your Killer Croc film ought to have an individual wiki page. I feel it deserves one.
Maybe.
That seems like something that'll stand up, that the people who were there like all the people in the comments will remember it. Will speak fondly of it for years to come, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's kind of amazing, actually. Like, did not think that would
So I
happen.
kind of remember, like, being on the sort of Bricks Emotion side of things. Like when that came out, people were talking about it, who wouldn't usually be talking about like superhero or I guess you could say Instagram Brickfilms. That's kind of how we refer to a lot of that stuff going back then. But like, yeah, like that totally like spread around. People were like, oh yeah, you got to check this one out. It's super impressive.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, I was watching it the other day, and I was like, because I really like, obviously looking at this different like set design and all the techniques and stuff you use, and I had a particular fondness for the toilet. I think it's like 6 minutes in. I thought it was a really cool toilet design.
Thank you. Yeah, I still have it. I just decided to keep it.
Nice.
Yeah. That whole scene, I think, kind of stood out for me because, I don't know, it was just very well edited, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, that's really good when the croc comes out of the toilet. And it's really funny when he just pokes his head out, and then, yeah, comes out of the entire toilet. But I feel like there's just something inherently funny about Lego toilets. Like, not even in brick filming, but like you'll see it if there's a Lego set that gets announced that has a toilet. People far and wide will be like, look at the toilet.
I actually had a kind of like sort of cheap sort of knockoff brand, like a dollhouse set that had like a really detailed like toilet, and I actually used it in one of my films. And I don't know where I've left it, like, because it's actually like a really good toilet. But if I was to do it now, I wonder if I would just do something similar to what you did, because I really like that design. It's really creative use of like pieces and stuff.
Yeah. And
actually, some of the most impressive shots in the film are when Batman is swimming underwater.
Oh yeah, that's I think I'm most proud of that out of anything I've ever made, because that was hard.
So like, how is the Batman animation looks incredibly fluid? Was he like stuck to a sheet or something, like a flat plane, or how's that done?
It was just like a little like Lego built tripod thing that was holding him up in front of a blue screen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. It's really well integrated.
Yeah, it's pretty standard actually. How you'd think it would be made is actually how it's made. It's just like, I don't know, got lucky, I guess. Good lighting, good green screening. Spent a lot of time trying to make it look real though.
Oh yeah.
Like that was the second try actually, because I spent like 12 hours compositing it and then I lost all of it and I had to do it again. Yeah.
Oh no.
Maybe that's why it's so good, because I got practice. Had to do it twice.
Maybe so, yeah. Because I mean, it did look so good that I figured that Batman is actually like physically in the same shot as a lot of the other Lego set parts.
Yeah, you've done such a good job of blending it in. Like I wouldn't even thought about it. Like,
yeah, I mean,
that shot when he's kind of like going into the cave and he kind of like slowly, gets darker, and it matches the kind of lighting of the cave, and that's like really really well done.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a green screen. He wasn't actually there. But yeah, we just matched the lighting, so animated two separate things with pretty much the same lighting, put them over each other.
I mean, yeah, like we do kind of complain about green screen shots in Brickfilms and in the Discord and stuff, but like when it's actually done well, it really looks solid.
Yeah,
like,
I'm picky about those things, because if it's not done well, I don't know, it takes you out of it.
Like that's a phenomenally composited shot.
Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes people get very, they'll think like more layers of things equals good, and not really think about like the actual kind of what it actually looks, like ends up looking like, and
just perspective sometimes, just colors.
Yeah, definitely matching the lighting and the colors, and you can see that you were paying attention to all that stuff because all of the digital screens in the film, they actually look like they're there.
Oh man,
like they're blended in well. Yeah, I'm picky about those. When I'm always talking about, you got to match the contrast and the white balance and stuff.
Yeah,
so that it actually looks like
that's actually why I felt able to, like in Endless, there's quite a few screens in that one shot with a lot of motion tracking and like
that. Yeah, when we were watching that, people were saying like, "Oh my god, are those all the tracking on those is amazing."
Yeah, it was hard. We had to. If I talk about it, you want to get to like the BRAWL entries.
I feel like we can just, it is your most recent film, and you are on the podcast, so we might as well just talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's okay to kind of go backwards and forwards on
Yeah.
this. Yeah, it's fine. Don't worry.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that one shot was like for the motion tracking specifically. What we did was like, well, my brother would turn the lights on, like so that we would like blast the set with more light so that it can actually track properly. So there's like 2 videos, one with the actual lighting, and then a second one with like really bright, and I put little red dots in the corner of the screen so that I can track that better, and that worked most of the time. But like sometimes it would mess up. So if you watch it, if you scrutinize the footage, it's not actually that perfect. It's just that we masked it a lot with like TV glitches, and I don't know, the sounds kind of take you away from noticing those kinds of things. So yeah.
I mean, obviously you're always going to be, scrutinizing your own work a lot closer than other people. But yeah, that is clever though, to take a super bright version of the same frames.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes he would forget though, and I'd have to do it manually. And some of the times it just doesn't work because, like, especially in the beginning when it was blurry, the red dot did not show up, so I had to do that manually. But yeah.
And I'm guessing that must have been shot with a webcam, right?
Yeah, with the C920.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, everything
Nice.
we do now is with the C920, believe it or not. Because sometimes people I see with the webcam, like the lighting looks a little meh.
Yeah.
But then I think we've experimented with it enough to try to get the lighting to look a little better. So sometimes it's hard to tell. At least I think.
Yeah,
it's a
for
webcam.
sure. Something about getting the right amount of light and getting the settings right.
Yeah.
Some people get incredible results where you can't believe that it's a C920.
That's the thing. Like, I feel like it's entirely in like how well you get to, you pull off like lighting and that kind of stuff. Because I mean I've been using the C920 for 6 years now, and that you wouldn't be able to tell based on like if you look at my films from 6 years ago versus now. I feel like
It's the same camera.
yeah, like it doesn't seem like the same camera at all. But it's it is just like you go from you have your very sort of generic kind of like lighting. It just looks like, oh yeah, this is like a webcam brick film, whereas like when you when you fiddle around with the lighting and spend a good long time on it, I'd say that I probably spend sometimes like close to half an hour to an hour just like fiddling around with lights to get the look that I want. And doing it that way you really come up with the look that you really want. And you just wouldn't really be able to tell, I don't think.
I know for BRAWL I had to really stop myself from continuing to fiddle with the lights, because I could just keep going and going, just test frames, poking it a tiny bit one way and poking it a tiny bit the other way. But at some point I had to say, okay, the lighting looks decent for this set, and I'm not going to move them between each different shot. It's like, just have to accept this is what the light looks like in this physical space. Like, I'm not going to fine tune it to make it perfect every single time the camera changes. But I wanted to know, like, how exactly is the camera being moved in that super long moving camera shot? Like, is it on any sort of tack, or just is it just freehand?
Well, it's okay. Well, one of the important things is that the main path that the character supposedly like walks down, it's flat, right? Like it's tiles. So yeah, what we did was put the camera down on those, and it could, there's no studs, so it can slide.
Yeah.
But the C920 has it has a hinge like right at the edge of the camera, but then also like this little flap thing, so you can rotate it up and down using the hinge, or you can rotate it by just like very subtly just like pushing down the flap. I don't know if I'm conveying that correctly. It's a bit
I feel like I know what you mean. Yeah,
geometric.
Yeah,
but yeah, so it's a combination of those two things, and then sliding back and forth like left and right, and then there you go, you got a realistic camera shake.
Yeah, because I did do some camera movements with the C920 on tiles back when I was using the C920, but like I just don't know how you got the movements so incredibly subtle and precise.
I guess he just did. Like,
Yeah, I guess.
I'm guessing like you kind of almost sort of looked at the way you were moving it in the same way as like if you were wanting to animate it. You know, like you almost sort of as like a yeah, this is how you animate a camera.
So, I mean, it really it felt so real. Like,
Yeah,
it felt like the camera was just being, moved by a person. Like, it didn't feel like stop motion animation
yeah, I'm
at all.
really happy with how it turned out. Yeah, from what I can tell, just observing my brother animate it, there's no secret. It's just like a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, there's a few things you have to get right. Like, in real life, if you're holding a camera, you might look down, even though it doesn't look nice. You might look down and like shake it a bit, which makes it more realistic, even though it doesn't look good.
Yeah.
So, like when he opens the door, he looks down. That's what we did. That's I would say that's realistic because he needs one hand to open the door. So yeah, things like that.
yeah. I think that to do it professionally, it has to look amateur and rough, and you just did that so well. I've never seen anything quite like this. I don't think. In I've seen decent like like in the past I've seen some in impressive like camera shake in Brickfilms, but yeah, nothing quite to this level where
And of course, the fact that the shot is so long and it moves through the stage. It's not just shaking realistically.
Yeah,
from
I
one
mean, you've got all
perspective.
those. It moves in. You've got that. It moves into that room with all the kind of like monitors and everything, and the monitors are being attract so like seamlessly with the shakiness of the camera. Like it's just like there's just so much to it that like is. It must have been. I'm assuming that must have taken a long time to animate that single shot.
Yeah. We started. Brawl started like 7 p.m. on a Saturday. Yeah, he started in the morning on Sunday, and then finished like I think in the afternoon, like 4 days later. So that was the majority of it. But I was tracking, like he would send them in pieces, and I would start tracking the pieces, so that by the time he sent the last piece, it was pretty much done. The shot was finished 4 days in, and like a minute of the video is already done. Even though that's like the centerpiece of it.
Yeah.
So then the rest was, just a few shots here and there. Then sound design took a surprisingly long time. We
the sound design's great in the video. That stood out.
Yeah, like
really
the alarm sound effects was very picky about it. We made those. We made the synth soundtrack as very subtle or very minimal, but that was made by us too. Yeah, I lost a lot of sleep on that last day. I did not sleep on that last day. First all-nighter I had to pull in a while.
I'm gonna say it was worth it.
I'd say just aside from like the technical like side of it, which is just like incredible. The also I was really engaged with just like the tone and like the I mean this is kind of veering towards the kind of top the top 10 territory at the moment, but like like the kind of horror elements of the film and the kind of the tension and the way that it builds up to generally be quite disturbing and sort of scary that's not an easy thing to do with brick filming either.
I wanted to try that because I feel like that's a genre that's kind of exploding right now, or it's at least it appeals to me right now. It's something I want to do, so that's why we did that.
Yeah. And also I guess I like the fact that it's all just done through like atmosphere and tension. Like you don't have sometimes I guess if people were to do a horror brick film and they might have some like goofy monster and like because it's built out of Lego it just looks goofy, but but no, this was something that you could actually like get into.
Here definitely less is more.
Yeah, I'd agree. But I was just reminded of the fact that I was kind of amazed by just how subtle the camera movements were. Back in BRAWL 2015, the first place winner was The Quiz by Twickabrick, and that was a film where like the animation was just so subtle, and I remember basically looking at that and thinking, how is it even possible to move the minifigure in increments this small? But then that basically influenced me to start doing the same, and it's like, I guess it is possible if you just put in the effort to make it so.
Yeah, sometimes it's just like there isn't like a hidden trick. It's just like effort and time has just been put into
just
it. Isn't
having
it?
that intention in mind from the start. I guess.
Yeah.
But that's kind of a curse though, because it means the animation takes so much longer.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, I guess we're already nearly an hour in, which is actually doing pretty well. Yeah, we should soon enough. We should revert back to number 10 instead of number 1.
Actually, but yeah, before we do, is there like I guess any standout Brick films like outside the top 10 that you would like to kind of like, I guess, give a quick shout out to?
Yeah.
Say cool
Other
things?
than the top 10, yeah, the 13th one,
Mm-hmm.
Echoes of a Humdrum Existence, was I don't know. I thought I'd be competing with that, like in a little more like I thought that would like at least make like top 5, because original soundtrack, lighting is amazing. Maybe I placed too much value on aesthetics, but the aesthetics were like amazing. So
I mean, I certainly wouldn't have been surprised if it had made the top 10. Although, I mean, like, generally speaking, I'd try to not let similarity to other entries like cloud my judgment on an individual level. But like, obviously it is, with the theme being repeat, like we knew fine well that there would be a hefty number of the guy goes to work in his office job and his day repeats and he wakes up in his bed and goes in the shower. This was the best one of those.
Yeah, no doubt.
But I still expected it to. I guess I kind of expected it to place a bit higher. Maybe I shouldn't say that. Maybe I shouldn't.
I did like it a lot. Like the set design was really nice in this film. Really liked it. Yeah, I did like the music was really nice. And,
original music too.
I really love that shot of the turkey leg. It's just incredible.
Yeah. Some of these shots are done with a probe lens. I know he's been talking about using that in the Discord, and I was struck by like the probe lens shots. They look so unusual in brick filming that like the first thing I thought was that CG, because like that doesn't look like the kind of shot you can achieve. But no, it's all
it looks
real
so
probe
like
lens.
Big. I don't know how else to describe it. It's just it's like it was filmed with like a chicken leg that was life size, like real.
Yeah. Like you got it from some Lego. If there was a Lego torch, like one of those big minifigures with a torch in their foot that just so happens to come with a 2-scale chicken leg.
Also, another nice toilet as well in the.
Shout out to the toilet.
I have to find it. Where?
There's a shot when he's in the shower. It's like toilet.
Wait.
Quite similar actually to your one.
But also just the fact that like the probe lens can be right in there inside the microwave.
Oh yeah, that's a nice toilet.
Yeah, I was kind of floored by that. The how close it got.
I mean, every single time I see a probe lens shot in a Brick film, like there was one that Keshin did, and there was one that Aquamorph did. Every single time I think to myself, I gotta get me one of those, and then I look it up online, and it's like, well, €1,000 plus.
Oh damn!
Not today.
Maybe next time.
Yeah.
One of these days, I'll actually pull the trigger on that. If I find a nice second-hand one and located within Ireland, so that's a tall order, but I hold out hope.
I wanted to give a quick shout out to number 20. Actually, again, I just thought it was a really sweet film, and it kind of reminded me of something that like I would have made about 4 or 5 years ago. That was also had I think an original piece of music as well, original score, which kind of is like sort of played within kind of the universe. You got the guitar, and I thought that was, and yeah, just like just quite a nice sort of vibe. I really enjoyed this one.
Yeah, the vibe is definitely there.
Yeah, I mean, really, I guess like just because the fact there were 132 entries, like even number 20 is going to be incredibly strong, like strong enough that in a different year, like if there had been less entries, in previous year, it easily could have made the top 10.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah. I guess as we always say, like if people didn't make the top 20, like it doesn't mean that the entry wasn't really good, because there were so many really good ones this year.
Yeah,
and there was so many entries in general.
I actually just before as well. There was also another one that was not even in the top 20. Joko's entry was really good as well. I was surprised I didn't actually make the top 20.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, it had a really nice water effect.
Yeah, those water shots in Joko's entry were just amazing.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, that was good.
But yeah, we really probably should start talking about the top 10. Jugu, which is a two-part film by Joshua Nelson and 2x4 Productions. And yeah, we're starting off with the top 10 with a really impressive couple of films, I'd say.
I mean, honestly, this is one of my favourite entries.
Yeah, same. Like, this was been like top 5 for me, personally.
Yeah.
I guess by it being 10 minutes long, like, maybe it took a little bit of time to get going, but once it did get going, like, you know, my mind was blown multiple times by the amount of stuff and the things that happened. It's just such a unique visual style going on, which I love to see.
What always strikes me with Joshua Nelson and 2x4 is like their concepts just so strong.
Yeah.
You know, like obviously, I mean, I'd highly recommend watching, I guess, Scrap, which is what came in the first place in 2020, but also like the Zombie Man films by Joshua Nelson. That's like, you know, incredible. It's on a conceptual level.
You know, it is kind of cool to have this sort of like legacy of a long running contest, and like we can refer back to the first place winners of previous contests while we're talking about the new one.
Sure.
It's just
the underwater, pretty damn cool. For part 2 there.
Yeah.
That was funny though.
That was one of the most amazing parts.
I was also make an underwater brick film, and then this is the first one I watched. The second one, like I upload mine, then I look for some. Oh look, underwater.
I'm always feeling the same when I enter a contest. So I'm thinking, I hope there isn't another entry that's super similar to my own. But I'll probably get to that when I get to talk about my own.
Yeah, well, it ended up being very, very dissimilar.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, not similar at all. I mean, I would never have made the connection. Like I didn't think, hey, you know, this is similar to that other one, just because there was water in it.
They were picking them off. I think there's a conspiracy here. They both have water.
Yeah.
But no, the underwater scenes are incredible, and I love the way that, you know, in part 2 you have the going between the two, and like how it kind of, you know, repeats, and you know, kind of like it's basically happening like in the same time, and like it's all kind of like trippy and just like cool.
And that shot of the fish monster thing there, not gonna lie, that's actually pretty scary. I don't know why. It just like looking at it, it's just like
I love the way they do all the set design, like the sunken ship, just really cool visually.
I also really love the like POV shot with inside the goggles. That's a really, really cool shot as well.
I guess I might as well. You know, we probably talked about this because they did a co-production, was it last year, for BRAWL as well, to place top 3. But you know, there were some people asking like, oh, is this one going to be judged as one film or as 2 films? But you know, like, it's obviously conceived and made as one film. Like, you know, it's shot in the same sets between the 2 parts and such. And like, I feel like people have a tendency to sort of like look at how things are presented on YouTube. In our minds, it's clearly one film. Like, it could have been uploaded as one film. Like, just because it's uploaded as 2 parts doesn't make it less of a single film. Like, that's, you know, we'd be more inclined to consider if it's a full film rather than how it's presented on YouTube. Like, that's sort of not taken into consideration. But I just feel like that's not often how people perceive things when they're released on YouTube.
Yeah.
Like, I guess sometimes you'll see things that were made many years ago, but people act as if they must have been made on the date on which they were uploaded to YouTube.
Yeah. Do you know if these sets are the same in both videos? Like,
well, the 3 people who made this, they're all brothers.
Oh, I see. Okay, I didn't know that. They have separate channels?
Yeah.
Wow.
They don't always make co-productions.
Interesting.
But yeah, so there's one channel for 2 of them, and then another channel for the other one.
I see.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think there's been instances where like they've made 2 completely separate films and placed in the top 10. I think it was in 2020. I think Joshua Nelson and 2x4 were both like, I mean, well, 2x4 won the entire thing, but then like Joshua Nelson came like 7th or something.
A completely separate film, yeah.
That's pretty interesting.
At least as well, like if it's a co-production and your brothers, at least it's kind of easy to share the prize.
Oh, that's true.
If you did come into the it came sort of close, number 3, top 3. But actually, before we head over to mine, I think I'm gonna just head over to the toilet.
Okay. That must mean he knows he's going to be talking about his own for a long time. But yeah, actually, how are we doing? Oh yeah, only an hour and a bit, so that's good.
Oh yeah.
Because oftentimes when we have to do a top 10 showcase, we tend to like start talking about the top 10 entries a lot sooner than we would if we were just doing a.
Okay, yeah.
Usually we do a showcase of 1 film per person, but this time obviously we have 10 films. So
yeah. You've done this in the past, like doing top 10s.
Yeah, we usually do a BRAWL and TAC special every year, and also I guess the summer contest on Bricks in Motion. I don't know if you've heard about the manifest contest that's currently going on.
Yeah, I've checked it out.
Cool.
Looks interesting.
Yeah. Last year's one was really good. Usually we don't usually do the same theme twice in a row for the summer contest, but there was just a lot of demand because everyone thought it was just ended up as a really special contest last year, like with a really standout list of entries where everything was so unique.
Yeah, the point of manifest is what, to do like new kind of things,
experimental. Just really you can take it in any direction you want. So I guess it is kind of hard to explain, but at the same time it's just so open that it's cool.
Yeah.
I am back.
Hey.
Yeah, just hoping to generate some unique ideas and stuff that's either hasn't been seen before or is so rarely seen that for somebody to do it and then inevitably put their own spin on it, it's like still super unique.
Yeah.
Within brick filming.
Cool goal to have.
I mean, I guess really even your BRAWL entry could have fit as a manifest film, like by being a found footage brick film. Like even that to me seems like the type of thing that's rarely seen in brick filming.
Yeah. Well, I've seen like the other ones. Or not other, like I've checked out a few, like one that was just made like with video.
Yeah, that was the winner last year. In fact,
that's really out there. Like
also Joshua Nelson as well.
Yeah, that was made by Joshua Nelson.
Oh, okay.
Well, one of the guys who made Jugu.
It's become quite a prolific brick film over the years.
Yeah,
and he likes making long brick films. That was the one that I mean, obviously we expected. Because he made it, we were hoping, or we kind of thought, it's probably going to be good. But we were kind of like, man, if this isn't good and it's like 20-something minutes long, like we're going to be, like, this is going to torture us. But then we were like, okay, this is working. We like this a lot.
Yeah, it looks really interesting. Yeah, I saw a giant head and I just wanted to click. It's really interesting.
But yeah, we should talk about the 9th place entry.
Yeah, cool. So, Time for Pie, which is my entry. My follow-up to the Tracker Tractor, which was the first place entry of last year, and my main kind of approach going into it was just like, now I've got to make something absolutely nothing like that in any way at all, which is what I always try and do. Is like basically, I like to make maybe like 1 or 2 films that have a similar kind of vibe to them. But then after I've done that, I'm just sort of thinking like, I'm done with that now. I'm going to do something different. And yeah, I mean, this is a kind of a more sort of dialogue-driven sort of kind of comedic kind of film, and about a guy who's with some pie.
Yeah, it's about a guy with some pie. That's all you need. Instant top 10.
Right, so number 8th now.
It's a great dialogue, I think. Like, I don't know. It just seems like perfectly, like the way that people make quippy responses and then just escalates into like this ridiculous thing. I love it. It's pretty good.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember we were in person in Germany talking about like, oh, you came first last year, so this year you got nothing to prove. You can just go in any direction you want.
Yeah, I think I was going to stuff. I really like the idea of like doing something which was just pretty like silly and just sort of like just having fun with like a very kind of basic concept. And I just really like the idea of like, this is like this one thing just like kind of escalating, and then it just being like this whole like marketing ploy in the future. I had kind of like originally, written the script to be kind of like a bit more kind of complicated. Well, one of the things I often do is like I think to myself like, oh yeah, I'm gonna make like a quite a basic kind of like story. It's gonna be just like primarily one set, but then I'll do something stupid like I'll have like 80% of the film will be in this one set, but then I'll make like 5 other sets, and there'll be like one shot built with like just a set or whatever. And like I was like, this time I wasn't going to do that. I was like, like I think I was originally going to have this whole like ending where he was going to like make his own pie and all this kind of stuff. And I was like I could probably do that without having to leave the I can say everything I need to say without leaving the supermarket.
I do like that you did the sort of like the red expanse. Yeah,
that was interesting.
Yeah, that's so funny because that was like the last like thing I shot in the film, and it was like the last sort of night, and I was really tired, and it was like taking like a really long time to do, and you can kind of tell like at the end of it I was sort of like had enough, because instead of just like the characters just like walking all the way out, they sort of vanish, they just like disappear.
Well, actually, when I first saw that, I thought to myself, oh yeah, that's a pretty clever way to not have to show them walking the whole distance, like which we're always complaining about, seeing minifigures having to walk all the way from A to D. But then it's like, hearing you say that actually you were just like cutting time because it's BRAWL. It's like, oh yeah, of course that's what he's doing. That makes perfect sense. But genuinely, I just think like just having them fade out like that just makes it better anyway.
Yeah, like it's visually interesting to look at that.
Yeah, I think it kind of I think it works way better anyway. Just like it's just one of the kind of things of like, you're not gaining any information from just seeing them walk out of frame entirely, and like it's like a lot of effort over nothing, but also it's like I really liked the effect of them just sort of like fading away. And I kind of also, because within the story, he's sort of telling this like massive story where it's like it's the end of the world. I kind of like I feel like them disappearing kind of like implies it's more than just like him losing his friendship. It's like the world ending. They disappear.
And also, I think people have remarked on like they were saying, oh, you got the color temperature, for the supermarket, and all the filthy bricks in the walls and stuff. But like that was a lot of that was unintentional, or well, not so much unintentional, but just sort of a happy accident, I guess you could say.
Yeah, it's really funny. Like I know that Hamster Productions commented saying really good color grading, and like I did the color. I didn't touch the color at all. Like it's exactly as it was when I was filming it, because color grading is something that I only do if I have the time, and I quite often don't with these sort of things. But I was actually really happy with just like the way it looked. It has that kind of like bluish kind of like I guess sort of supermarkety kind of look.
A bit like a refrigerator.
Actually, yeah. The set really was legit. Yeah, like all the shelves and the freezers and stuff.
Yeah. I really enjoyed making it all, and it took like I'd say it took way more time than I've ever spent on BRAWL making sets. Because of like all these like small things I've had to kind of like make and try and make them look like they're items in a shop,
Yeah. And I always love to see the ancient filthy bricks, because I mean it's funny because like usually it's just the case that's just what the person making the film just so happens to have, but like especially with this, it does give it that nice grungy lived in feel.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I again, it's another like happy accident. Just like I have like yellow white bricks, just sort of like
white and name only.
Yeah, they always are the first to kind of completely rotten to the point where
they look way filthier than the average filthy Lego.
Like you could see on the roof, or like that that slant part. I'm assuming that's like a bit of a roof, right? A bunch of 2x4s. They're all like different colors, even though they're all white. But but that's something else that's great. Like you put a bit of a roof. I think whenever people do that, it makes it just look more real and like enclosed. Yeah,
I feel the same way. And I was considering, like I was thinking to myself, I'd love to just put a nice little ceiling, just barely visible in my sets for my BRAWL entry. But then I thought, no way, not for BRAWL. It's just so much easier to just throw up a flat wall and then be done with it.
It's just sometimes I generally try and avoid having to do it, but like sometimes it's just like if you've got like a big wide, especially with a film like there's the sort of scale like some of the wide shots in this film is just like it would have looked really weird if it was just like
just going up
this
forever.
huge wall. And
Yeah.
especially as well because I was doing a lot of angles that were kind of like more like lower angles, I ended up having to
Oh yeah, you do have some lower
do a
angles.
seating.
Because yeah, I mean, if I do just have a big wall and no ceiling, like nowadays, I do want to actually frame it like so that you don't see too much wall stretching up to the heavens.
Yeah.
And also as well, like I do want to quickly give a big shout out to Rudy. They're amazing voice work on this.
Actually, yeah, Rudy has a bunch of performances throughout the whole Brawl playlist, and they were always fantastic.
Yeah. So thanks Rudy for playing all Marcuses in the film.
And I guess there must be some trickery going on with like when you have a bunch of them in frame at once, because I know I certainly wouldn't have that head and hairpiece in that quantity just to hand for Brawl.
I actually have two of the same those headpieces and the actual heads themselves. And there's that shot, really long shot where you've got three Marcuses. They kind of appear, and basically the way I did that was I shot the two of them, for the entire thing, and then I had like a load of just like I think I had like 500 frames of just them kind of like moving on, sort of reacting to the Marcus that actually wasn't there, and then I had to add the other Marcus that appears, and I removed the one who was on the white so that he could be kind of next to the one who's like also there.
Yeah.
And then I sort of masked them together, and then with the final shot, the kind of post-credit shot, you've got like I think there's like 5 of them there, and I basically had to just kind of like insert one, and then sort of like move him off to the other side of the set, and yeah, it was a lot of like a lot of camera trickery, which I'm actually really happy with how it came out, because it's like. And that's one of the things I've been trying to do a lot recently at the last like couple of Brick films I've been making, where it's just like these sort of like invisible effects.
Yeah.
'Cause I don't do a lot of like I try and make everything as practical as I can, and that's mostly just because of I'm too lazy to do anything that's like sort of like like extensive graphics. But one thing I have been trying to do is just like invisible effects that
I do love doing.
Don't look like effects.
Trickery like that you'll never even think about. Like, I made a really short animation called Transformation, and it's just one perspective, one set. And like in the shot, there's 2 lights like in the set pointed downwards, and like they're right over the figures. So like if I'd actually tried to animate with the lights there, even if I was trying to be as careful as possible, no doubt I would have bumped them over and over again. So like, I just shot the lights with nothing moving, and then just like pasted that section of the screen over the entire footage. But it looks seamless. So yeah, that's always a trick that I try to keep in mind, and I try to recommend it to other people, because oftentimes you see in Brick films like something is bumping all over the place in the background, but it's like nothing's even moving in front of it. So you're just like, oh, you could just freeze it in place; it'll be perfect.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I had to do that a couple of times in this film as well. Is the shopping trolley moved quite a bit, and I had to kind of like mask that out. And it was mostly pretty simple. Just like masking that area and just using a few frames for the entire shot. But one thing I had to be careful of was just how reflective the floor was. And the fun fact: this is the first time I've ever animated. A brick film without any studs.
Oh yeah.
It's just tile pieces.
Kind of ambitious for Brawl as well.
Yeah. I actually really enjoyed how freeing it was. Like I didn't really struggle at all.
I love it, but it takes so much time. But it's so much better.
Yeah.
If you have all the time in the world, then it's so much better.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, I don't know if I would not have wanted to do this with like multiple sets. But I one of the things I had to be careful of was just like how, and this was just true of like I guess the masking all the Marcuses together as well, was there was like having to use the lines in the tile pieces as a guide, because there was like reflections that are like didn't match, and they even like the shadows and stuff like of Marcus moving when when the trolley shouldn't be moving and all this kind of stuff. Is
I do try
to kind of consider.
I try to mask and sort of paste layers along lines like that. Yeah, lines in the tiles or in the walls and stuff. It just kind of helps to mask the seams. I think that's a good trick.
It's very smart.
There was a point, I think it was around 4 hours before the deadline, where I was like, this film is just not working. Like I just didn't like the film, and I was like, oh my god, like what's going on? And it's just like how brutal you have to be with editing comedies, like something that's like comedic. If the pacing is off just by a couple of seconds, it can completely destroy the whole vibe of a film. Absolutely. And I just had to kind of like really kind of be like, okay, I'm going to cut right here, I'm going to cut right there, and then like that has completely changed how I saw the film. It was quite bizarre, but like I feel like there are a lot of instances like that where if you're doing like a comedic brick film where it's just like it's although I mean comedic films in general, like it's all in the editing, isn't it?
It doesn't even have to be comedic, but like you often hear people say that about making hack and brawl entries where while they're making it they're thinking, oh my god, this is so awful, this is the worst thing I ever made. But like it's always worth it to just power through and actually finish it, because then like once you release it, it's actually good most of the time. And you look back at it and think, wow, why did I think that was so awful?
I think it's just a kind of rite of passage to it's always have a point where you hate your film and then go beyond that and actually like it.
And like some of those even place in the top 10, like the ones that you think are so bad while you're making them.
It's a familiar experience.
That is, it's always surprising just how, like universal that experience is. Like you think you're crazy for feeling that, but then you mention it and everyone else is like, oh yeah, I totally feel the same way.
And then someone with fresh eyes looks at it and they're like, whoa, amazing.
So good. But we definitely need to talk about the next entry, because this always happens, but you always do end up having so much more to say when you get a chance to talk about your own film.
Sure. So we heard to Gluttony, which is by Angry Cat Brickfilms. I'm really glad to see this one rank so high in the list.
So am I.
It was an early in the playlist brick film that's I think straight away was like, oh yeah, this is so good.
Very creative. Like I don't think I've seen another brick film like with characters that look like these, just like big old blocks that.
That's true. It's so stylized and so Lego-y. But in a way that we don't even regularly see, even among brick built characters.
I mean, this is a film that could have been really good in Manifest, actually.
True.
A few of us watched the kind of playlist together. Sanjira just like really enjoyed this one, especially when he eats the one element and then poops it out and somebody else eats it. Like that brought a lot of joy.
It doesn't sound too good on paper, but it's very well done.
You're giving away the secrets of how to win the upcoming Manifest contest. But actually we haven't really mentioned the theme incorporation yet, but we did find it particularly amusing how this one used repeat.
Yeah.
It actually does remind me quite a bit of Dimensions of Dialogue by
Jan Svankmajer.
Thanks Svankmajer. The way that it kind of like, especially that first sequence with the heads and
and really fitting music. I mean, it's not original, but it's just picked perfectly.
And I just love the way that they eat, like the chewing. It's just up down, up down.
And like when they look around at their eyes in 2 frames as well. I just love the way the stylized animation fits the character design perfectly, and the music goes along with the character design perfectly as well.
I also just really like the look of like the background as well. Like it looks like the kind of the animation studio almost, but it's like it's done. It looks so nice. Like it looks so nice and clean, and like like it's sometimes it's like one of those examples of just like less is more, isn't it? Like the simplicity of it is just so satisfying somehow.
But I think we are always suckers for the non-minifig entries, and this was really a standout, and I was hoping this will actually make the top 10, so I'm happy that it did. Or I mean, I was hoping it would make the results, but happy definitely to see it place high. But at the same time, it is pretty short, so let's keep it rolling, because we got a long entry to talk about now.
There's only so many times you can loop a 1 minute and 15 second Brick film. But yeah, so this one, from very short to very long, the Lego Backrooms Entity Attack by Twisted Bricks.
He's changed the name of it. It used to have a different name. Let me check the wiki again. Pipe Dreams.
All right, yeah, I remember. Yeah, this was really cool.
I have absolutely no idea what Backrooms are. I'm assuming it's similar to SCP, but regardless of that, I enjoyed this a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I don't even think I'm not sure if it goes into any backrooms like stuff. It just tells a story that happens to take place here. But yeah, I don't know like the lore behind it either. I don't know if that night person is actually like part of it or not. No idea. But
it is cool to see Twisted Bricks, become involved with Bricks in Motion and enter the BRAWL contest, because like I know, to be honest, I hadn't heard of Twisted Bricks before he was, engaging in the Discord. And then at some point it's like, who is this guy anyway? And I check him out and it's like, oh my god, he's got like 100,000 subscribers. And a bunch of videos with big view counts.
Yeah, I've never actually seen this guy either.
There's all sorts of like subgenres of brick filming, like of course horror brick films, and a lot of his stuff is pretty like horror brick films with lots of gore. Has a huge viewer base on YouTube, but like it's sort of stuff that doesn't really come across our radar all that often.
The amount of suspense and like the character design and just the overall kind of like tone and of this film was really engaging, and I really enjoyed it, and also like there's a lot to it in for a BRAWL film. I don't know how it was done, to be honest.
Yeah, there's so many camera angles. Like I tried to reduce the number of camera setups for timed contest entries.
Yeah.
And of course we have to mention amazing voice performance by Chris Soliasis, Mini Life TV.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was it was really saying something like I didn't know who it was at first when I was
yeah, neither did I. When I saw his name show up in the credits, I was like, oh my god, that was Chris. He did an amazing job. But this one, incredible. I was kind of like unsure exactly how it would place, because I was kind of thinking, it could rank top 3, but at the same time, I thought that like it was slightly weak on theme, which when it comes to contest judging can often like ding entries. No matter how impressive they are.
Yeah, I suppose that's true.
So I guess I'm just saying that like because there might be some people who are kind of thinking like, why did this place only 7th? Because like there's so much to it and it's super impressive.
Yeah. Well, I guess the repeat element is like, I don't know, just the backrooms itself, or
well, I guess the knight character is like he's repeatedly doing the same thing. Right. But I mean, I guess if you were to really be scrutinizing the use of theme and such, it is kind of just like conveyed through dialogue after the main action has taken place.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah,
there is a kind of thing of like obviously the first like I guess 4 minutes or so like I really like the main bulk of the action, and there is kind of quite an extensive dialogue sort of scene afterwards, which I would say it kind of feels like it gets
I guess you could say
long.
It's maybe like front loaded.
but that being said though, like I think that it kind of is sold through the amazing performance as well, so it kind of it works all the way through.
Yeah, I was captivated by it pretty good.
But yeah, certainly one of the standout entries. I mean, I feel like we've criticized it slightly more than the others, but it's easily one of the most impressive entries.
Yeah.
But I think he'll understand that. I feel more inclined to say things like that when I get the impression that like the audience members might not understand a placement, or might think it's a slight mismatch. But I know, like, obviously when you're judging the contest and theme interpretation is considered part of that, it's going to weigh heavier than just the audience's perception. I think that makes sense.
Yeah,
it makes sense.
Also, as well, I wanted to kind of quickly just point out that like one of the things I noticed in the playlist in general is like there's a couple of brick films that use like brick arms pieces. I think it was like custom like accessory sort of like pieces.
Brick forge maybe.
Maybe Brickforge, yeah, because in this you've got like those pieces that are like on the arms on the knight.
Oh,
And there's actually I was trying to find a piece actually for my next Batman film that I just couldn't think of a piece in Lego that actually kind of worked. And then I saw this and I was like, oh yeah, that's the piece I found, got it. And then I had to I googled it and then I found it and then bought a piece that was basically that. So first ever time I've bought something like that actually. But yeah, anyway. So we head over to Out for Lunch. I guess you could
my one.
Introduce this.
Out to lunch.
This is fantastic. It's always nice to get a chance to talk about your own film.
Yeah.
That's the real prize for placing on the ranking.
I mean, this is why we do this, isn't it?
Yeah, as long as you're a podcast host every year,
just
then
a
that's
boast.
the prize. So yeah, Out to Lunch, my entry that goes further with mixing and matching different frame rates. It's sort of stuff that I've already been toying with, but previously I'd have different characters and different frame rates and try to just sort of blend it into the world together. But in this one, it's more like pronounced and intentionally trying to be drawing attention to it. It's part of the plot and such. So I like to think that it's not entirely just retreading the same ground, but basically the idea behind this sort of originated before the theme was announced because, as the years goes on, it gets harder to dedicate every waking hour of a week to making a BRAWL entry. But for the last few years, we've only been making super short entries. Like the last two were just 30 seconds long, just bare minimum, just for the sake of entering. But basically this year we were kind of saying it feels like the time is right. We should actually make an entry that hopefully might actually place on the ranking again. But keeping in mind that we've got to cut corners in order to make it actually happen within the week time span. So my thinking was, I've gotten way too particular with my animation recently to the point that I could never just do that level of animation for an entire BRAWL entry. So I need to figure out a way to get some stylized animation in there so that it takes up less time. And so basically, once the theme was announced and the theme was repeat, it didn't take long before I was thinking, what if I just went really far with a repeated frame animated character, who just does everything in 2 frames repeated, and that'll take care of the, needing some stylized animation in order to actually get the film over the line, while also, hopefully making it funny and working it into the plot in a way that actually feels relevant and cohesive.
It was quite funny.
Thank you.
What I really love about this film is just how it feels like there's no messing around. It just it's exactly the right length that it needs to be, and so much happens in it. I was always amazed by how much is conveyed in just over 2 minutes. And it feels like a complete story, but it's in that short runtime it just does so much. And I feel like there's such the way that you kind of blended that really detailed fluid animation with the kind of 2 frames sort of looping the kind of animation. Was just perfect.
I did figure the other characters had to be extremely subtle, like what I was talking about with the quiz. I go back to that, but when I had that, I came up with that idea. I was thinking, here I was thinking I should do my entry with super stylized animation, but now I've come up with a concept that actually requires that subtle animation again. That's typical, isn't it? But I still managed to get it shot. And definitely I was trying to, cut down, as I was saying, on as many camera setups as possible. The entire film only has 7 camera angles.
Wow. You just didn't feel that though. It feels.
I like
so complete. So, yeah. But I do. I absolutely love that kind of that long kind of shot, the tracking shot in the in the restaurant when it's this big sort of reveal, and it's this really slow tracking, really smooth sort of track with the camera, 24 frames a second, and then you see everyone reacting, and you hear this noise, and then you see this really kind of this just these 2 frames of animation being looped over and over again. It's just it's perfect, the perfect reveal.
Yeah, and it's you were saying earlier about your own BRAWL entry that you often have a sort of a centerpiece shot that's just this is the most impressive shot. that shot was that for mine. And of course, it obviously it's not as good as yours, but I was thinking similar things. Like sometimes I make a film and I have one shot that I'm going to spend so much longer on, and just be like, yeah, that's the impressive shot.
Yeah, well, it is impressive. Did you use a rig for that?
Yeah, it's a macro slider, like a.
Okay, yeah.
You can attach a C920 to it, but it's designed for DSLRs.
Okay. Yeah, because I don't have anything. I don't think I could pull that off that smoothly.
Yeah, I mean, I could never do that without the tool.
Yeah, I'm assuming then that you're kind of
increments.
Are you kind of like measuring the amount of movement to get it that precise, or
no? That would just take so long, to actually have to. It's always just. Just try to get the smallest increment humanly possible, and if you always aim for the smallest one humanly possible, it's always going to be pretty much the same. So I guess I'd have to measure it if I wanted a slightly faster movement, but
yeah,
I like
that's actually
the subtle
understandable.
movement.
I guess if you're making those tiny increments of animation, I guess then like a measurement would probably not be that helpful actually.
But yeah, you were saying like the film, it is pretty short, and like I was aware that like I mean, okay, I did basically make as much as was possible in the time frame, but like if I did have unlimited time, like if I dragged it out for ages and just had infinite sketches with oh look, he does this and it's done in 2 frames, it would kind of overstay its welcome, like people would be like, okay, we get the point, wrap this up already.
Yeah, it's a good length.
So yeah, I did have that in mind, and like really I'm quite happy with the way it bookends with the scenes in the office, but like the way it was constructed was basically like we just had the ideas for the parts in the middle and just shot basically as much as we felt we could get shot, and then only after shooting all of that stuff did we try to come up with some idea for how to like wrap it around into an actual story with like a beginning and an end. Like we were kind of thinking, okay, we'll shoot something that sets it up, and then something that like hopefully serves as an ending that works at the end. And so I'm pretty happy what we came up with. But our original concept was to have them like leave the restaurant and then they'd be out on the street and get be approached by muggers or something, and then have to like fight them. But like the way that they fight them is by just fighting them in 2 frame fight movements, so that they can just move extremely fast and just beat everyone up really quickly. But by the time we'd got all the other stuff shot, it was like, okay, we definitely don't have enough time to build a the outdoor setting and have to do multiple camera angles outdoors and like bring in more characters and stuff. So it was like, nah, we got to figure out how to wrap it up in the same office set from the start. But I'm actually really happy with how it worked out in the end.
Yeah, I think it's just like, yeah, I don't think you need any more than what you have. Like, I think it's just like, it's a perfect length for it, I think. Like, it just,
I was kind of afraid. I was afraid that we'd have to just cut it off after the money part, and it wouldn't really have any sort of a like satisfying ending. It would just sort of end abruptly. But then, nah. Yeah, actually, I did have to stay up overnight on the last night just to get that last office shot done, and like the final edit, of course. But I do edit as I go, so like by the time I had the last shot done, I didn't have any editing to do other than the editing for the last shot. And I think that's a pretty good way of working for BRAWL, like so that you'll be sure that you actually have enough time to get the film. That's
basically what I do as well, because I mean editing is like such an important part of it for me. Like I think it's yeah, and it's like at least 60% of the film, I think, and obviously when you don't want like 60% of the film to be complete in the last like 12 hours. So every night I finish up like, okay, I've done this much animation now for tonight, I'm gonna sort of go to bed, but before I do that I'll spend a couple of hours sort of like going through cutting it so that it looks right, and also as you're going along then you're able to work out like if it's actually working,
yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
So that's important.
Yeah.
But actually what I wanted to kind of ask is, based on what you were saying with like the way that you were kind of making it, did you have like a proper like script sort of?
No.
I guess like no. You're just like, mostly just kind of like going along as you
No, it's all in my head.
Do you usually work from a script, or?
Yes.
I mean, no. It's always just me and my brother just bounce ideas back and forth, and then just like, I mean, that's part of why we didn't bring in any outside voice actors, because like we just come up with everything right before we record the dialogue. So like,
Yeah.
we're recording the lines for the last scene on the last day.
Yeah, imagine having to wait for people to send them in. You're like, ah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I guess I do kind of like the idea of being able to just just put our names on the credits and that's it. Like,
yeah,
made by us. Yeah. That's it.
It is nice if you could do that. Yeah, just make them as short as possible. But I also do like as well, like there's a couple of references to like Citizen of the Year, like obviously in the background. But something that I don't think I've seen anyone like sort of like mention is that like. You have like the very last like line of Citizen of the Year, don't you? In the
that's true.
You know what you have to do.
Well, the thing is, like that line fit just like I practically just thought of the same wording in my head, and then I realized, well, that's just the same wording as the last line from Citizen of the Year, but it still works. So I'll just put it in there anyway. Like that's just what needs to be said here. But yeah, I did. As I was setting up that like restaurant set, and I have the two characters sitting across from each other, I was thinking. This is very reminiscent of Citizen of the Year, so I might as well just acknowledge that by showing a cameo of the characters in the background.
I did like as well that I think it's always a plus side when you have lots of funny noises.
Oh yeah, I love all those goofy sound effects.
especially the
comedy. It's practically cheat codes.
Obviously, you've got the really really loud like slamming the cup, but also the the end is great.
People often complain about like sound mixing in films where stuff is too loud and then other stuff is too quiet, but I do love reserving some volume space for like a sound effect that's just uncomfortably loud. That's just as part of the comedy. But yeah, I guess I built the restaurant set. I feel like I spent way too long building the sets, but I built the restaurant set as just one big box. Like I wasn't thinking about like only build what the camera sees. But the office set, I knew fine well that I only have time to do one camera angle in the office set. That was 100% built in camera, and like you can just see there's a few grey pillars. Obviously, as soon as they leave what the camera can see, there's just no more bricks. And the same at the tabletop; it's just tan tiles and. There's nothing interesting going on underneath, and that was I must say an excellent way to get a set built for BRAWL.
I would recommend was always really nice as well is like now that now that I have like Dragon Frame, I'm sure it's the same for you, where like the images aren't compressed by like so too much, so you're able to kind of like crop by like to like 105%, and if there's a bit of a corner that's like that you can see, it's okay, you can just crop it out and it's fine. But I'm aware that like we've been talking quite a bit about this like film that's only like 2 minutes long, but
as I say, you always end up talking more about when it's your own film.
But I did want to kind of briefly kind of mention that like I actually really like the just like the how it ends, the kind of like it has a kind of a I guess kind of nice sort of message to kind of wrap it all up, and kind of like be yourself kind of thing.
I guess, yeah. I mean, it's like, I wasn't trying super hard to give it like a strong moral or whatever. Like but yeah, it just kind of came out that way. Like I just thought, this is interesting to me, interesting enough, and
that's what I like.
What the characters should say, and it's just it's a way of actually giving it a real ending that actually feels like a resolution. It doesn't just feel like it just ends once you've run out of ideas.
That's what I really like about it as well. It's like you can tell that this is obviously not like what you didn't set out to come up with this message, but like it just like works as like a happy accident, doesn't it? And you kind of like come up with the finished film at the end.
That's like how most things come about.
It's true. I was happy that it wasn't too far into we live in a society territory, because I do think we can acknowledge that there was a lot of office work based entries in the playlist, and a lot of them were like break free from the chains, the office is keeping you down, man. But mine is sort of like it's not going too far in any specific direction, I'd say.
Yeah, it's just like a fun little good time.
But I think there's a huge charm to that way of that kind of process that you have of just kind of like just doing it off, from scratch, and kind of like making it up as you go, and like as you're kind of developing it, you're writing the story basically as you're animating. And
I was pretty happy. Well, actually, I was especially happy with this one, but I wouldn't entirely recommend doing it that way to other people. It works for us, or we like it, but sometimes the endings we come up with are terrible, like it's truly awful. But especially in TAC, you just run out of time. So it's hit and miss, I'd say. But this one, I feel like a nice resolution.
I really liked how things written down, just like the process. But I think it's maybe that's sort of better if you're kind of doing like solo, whereas like if you were able to work it together as like as a duo, you're kind of able to maybe fine tune things more on the spot, I guess, than you would if you're on your own. I guess in a way you got like you got two opinions going on. You? Like,
well, I always feel like that works. Whether it's making films or just working on stuff for Bricks in Motion, like to actually have two people going back and forth. Yeah, I like that a lot.
And this is why it's a two host podcast, But yeah, shall we head over to?
But yeah, we should probably stop talking about my one now.
I know it is fun talking about like Brick films. Though I have to be honest.
Oh, yeah, of course, it's fun for me, but I still have to keep it in mind. Yeah, we got to move on.
So yeah, we got Rebirth, which is I believe a collaboration with the sort of members of Brickfilm Day. I wouldn't be able to say off by heart every person who is involved.
Unless we have wiki. Like Bricks and Pieces, AJF Studios, Dragon Brick Studios, Darth Levy, and Jared VB. The man, the myth, the legend.
Yeah, I mean, right off the bat, I'd say that like it's it comes together as a a single film incredibly well.
Oh yeah.
And there isn't this kind of feeling that it's like this like put together kind of film that like it's just like a bunch of people have done.
That's what impressed me the most, because always when I'm watching a collaboration, I'm looking for that point, like where's the switch over. But this is really cohesive. I stopped thinking about that like pretty early on,
and it kind of works with like the actual story that they're telling, because it's just a bunch of different moments, right? So like and he is like being rebirthed, so I don't know, like the use of repeat to like kind of tell a story that involves many different scenes, I think that's optimized for the kind of teamwork that they did.
I'm very impressed as well about just coordinating this many people making the one film.
Yeah, it's a great concept too, like the actual science fiction is very almost Blade Runner-y. I like it.
Yeah, it was a very good use of the team.
Yeah. I think especially, like I guess I've mentioned a couple of times before, but the sort of ship of Theseus kind of thing of like, he's by the end of it, there's actually nothing about him that's like himself anymore, and it's being turned from just basically being a super soldier human to being just a robot, isn't it? And that's a really cool kind of sci-fi kind of concept as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just love that shot when he gets shot in the foot and like slams his face down, like getting a really hard hit in a Brick film is very satisfying.
I really liked that shot, the kind of space shots when you had the spaceship. That was really well put together.
Yeah, was that?
Yeah, that's impressive, especially for BRAWL.
Like a render. It's actually hard to tell, which makes it good. Like it looks like a 3D model. Yeah, I'm gonna go with that's 3D, but
I'm going to assume it is, because I mean, like, I don't know how else it would have been done. Like, I mean, it looks convincing enough that like if you told me it was real, I would say I wouldn't question you. But like at the same time, it's just like you'd have to be a madman to build that for that one shot. I feel like
was that even Lego though? It's hard to tell.
It kind of looks like it's Lego. Like if you look at like
it does, but
yeah.
I'm saying it's a render.
Yeah. But no, I think the fact that we're questioning it is a pretty good sign. So
I think I'd put my money on it being a render as well.
Yeah.
Although to be fair, like YouTube is such bad quality these days. Like even having this set on 1080, it still looks a bit janky. I mean, the quality of the upload, not the not the film.
Yeah,
you know what
sure
I mean?
it looks
Like, I'm
better.
sure if they put this up on Vimeo, it would look clearer. But then we might be able to tell it's a render for sure, and that would
Yeah,
that would spoil the
sometimes,
effect.
yeah, for like Ultra HD is a blessing and a curse
Yeah.
sometimes. I would say as well, like yeah, I was actually really disappointed. Well, I say really disappointed. It wasn't like that disappointed, but I was a bit annoyed, like that uploading my video in 1080p. I don't know. It didn't look as great as I'd wanted it to. You know, in terms of YouTube compression, like there's some frames that kind of just like look kind of when paused, they look
Yeah,
kind of messy,
yeah,
and I was
mushed.
like,
Well, that's why I like to do 4K. I basically consider YouTube 4K to be what 1080 is supposed to look like.
yeah. I mean, I actually did do that for 96.1, but I didn't want to mess around with the. It was like a couple of hours before the deadline. Like, I kind of felt like if I waited too long, like I
Yeah,
don't know. And the next time, I think from now on, I'm just gonna go 4K. I'll be honest.
I do have the same worry, but yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It didn't
I
take me
tried-
that long to render.
I tried
4K
doing
film.
4K, but with the motion tracking, I quickly realized like it was just gonna crash and stuff. So I don't think I was gonna make the deadline.
Mind you, I think with the way that
That
you
makes a
did
lot of
yours
sense.
with the kind of like
That's true.
found footage and
Yeah,
the
it
glitching, and
didn't
all that
have
kind
to
of
be
stuff, like,
4K,
you wouldn't
but-
be able to tell the
I know the
Yeah.
description says watching 144p for the most authentic experience, and I mean, I guess that's more of a
Yeah,
joke
it's a
than
joke.
anything. But like, if you set it to 144p, like
It does look
like,
look realistic.
yeah, it does look pretty cool. Like how crunchy it is. But the fact that like the set is so detailed and like the shots looked really good to begin with, like when you actually compress it like that, it still
Yeah.
looks pretty cool.
I think I actually did do that with my BRAWL entry last year. Track Attract. I put it onto 144p once just to see what it looked like. I'd be like, because it's 4:3. I was like, hey, it's like 2008.
Yeah.
But speaking of 4:3, let's talk about the next entry.
Yeah, so Can Dogs Wear Pants by Ziltrag, who has been a real kind of like, you know, a big name in the animation challenge, and now is a big name in BRAWL.
Yeah. It is kind of funny how you got some people who like, you know their name because they just keep winning the animation challenge. Like it's such a localized way of considering somebody to be
I recently
prominent.
discovered this person, or maybe it's not one person, but yeah, I looked at their animation challenge things. It's kind of insane how fluid their stuff looks.
Yeah. I mean, the stuff people are doing for the animation challenge these days,
It's kind of ironic. It's like
It's so incredible.
so fluid. It's pretty cool.
I love that stuff. Probably more than super fluid, or I guess
Yeah,
I guess it is fluid even though it's low frame rate. I guess I should say I love it more than super smooth animation a lot of the time.
yeah,
Well, I mean, yeah, so much of it is like there's so much attention to detail it's having to put into less frames, and you know, there's so much more banking on every single frame when it's a low frame rate.
Yeah.
So I do
And I guess-
props to anyone that tries to put it off, I'd say.
Not to just keep talking about my own film, but like, you know, I was happy with my own film when the character runs towards the other guy to give him the money, and like, you know, the speed of his run and like the physics, it still felt right to me, even though he's just got one leg up, you know, per
yeah.
stud. But yeah, Can Dogs Wear Pants by Ziltrag. I really loved like just the look of this and just the way the characters move around and talk. Like, I can't quite put my finger on why this is the case, but it just feels so Brickfilm
Yeah.
to me. Like it feels like this style is suited to the medium.
The set design is so nice. I think especially there's early on there's that's, you know, when you have the detectives like show up, and well, you got a ceiling as well. I got like a full ceiling, and the lighting is
Oh,
really
yeah.
good.
It's amazing.
I don't know how they kind of
like
pulled it
with
off.
the detective and you can see a bit of the roof and like the guy reading the book there. Pretty cool.
So yeah, I enjoyed the set design a lot. It's really kind of quite basic, but like it's
Yeah, it
really
is.
nice.
Yeah.
It's really
And
nice
I'd
aesthetic.
even say that about some of the animation. Like, stuff moves and it doesn't take a lot of frames to move, but like just the way that like you've got the guy with his head kind of rocks around a bit. Like, I guess he must have sanded down the neck peg a bit, but like, it just looks really nice. It suits the Lego so well to move in that sort of manner. It's like, you know, it doesn't have to be like turbo ultra fluid, like, you know, to reference the quiz. And of course it worked great in the quiz, like for the style that was going for, but for the style this is going for, the way the characters move is perfect.
I feel like with this film there's a sort of sense of it kind of reminds me a little bit of like old Brick films, I think, like especially like with the story and stuff. I'm gonna be kind of honest that like especially like initially watching it, I was very confused, and I don't entirely get it to this point, to this day. But like, it's not like, I don't want to sound like I'm being overly critical, because it's more of a preference thing, I'd say. But like, there was points where it kind of like, I feel like I didn't really necessarily understand the film as a whole, and there's like points where it veers towards being like lol so random humor that I don't really appreciate too much. But like, I feel like on repeat viewings it's kind of grown on me, more definitely like last time I watched it. I feel like there's a lot more I appreciate about it, especially with, I think I really like, obviously, Jay Silver's voice acting towards the end is always a joy. And
yeah, of course, as much as it goes without saying, it is worth remarking that Jay Silver's voice acting was excellent. And performance.
I mean, it's like saying, you know, like water is wet to this point, but yeah.
And I do love to, you know, always hear Jay continuing to lend his voice year after year.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that is probably about I did come across as quite critical. Not necessarily critical, I guess, necessarily, because it's not like a personal preference kind of thing, I guess.
That makes sense to me. I do feel like there is something very specific about the style, where I guess some people might appreciate it more than others. That makes sense. But yeah, as I say, it just feels like, I guess, like classic Brick film stuff.
Gotta watch it in 144p as well now. Actually, yeah, that does it for me. That actually looks really nice.
Oh, yeah,
I just did that actually. Yeah, this is like, we're doing 2008 now.
Yeah, and the ending, I would say, like with the tape recorder thing, I thought that was pretty clever. You know, like the way he says a million or whatever. I forget the other lines. I can't quote.
Oh yeah,
exactly,
he uses the recordings to
Yeah, that made me like it quite a bit.
Yeah, I did like how that was revealed. Yeah,
I think that there's like quite a lot of elements like to the story that make it quite. I think there's a lot that I think that upon like rewatches you kind of pick up on. I think more so like and obviously that's can be quite a good thing. I'd guess within a film if there's like lots of elements to a story.
Yeah.
But yes, I think we need to talk about the top 3 now. Let's talk about A Game of Telephone by Formal Lens.
Yeah.
I was quite happy to see Formal Lens make the top 3 because there's a couple of names who sort of, I guess you could say, like quietly enter every contest. Like they're not really talking on the Discord all the time, or they're not really like talking on Twitter all the time or whatever, but they just show up every single year, and they enter Brawl and they enter Thack, and they often place in the top 10, and always make really solid well-made work, and they've been around for like years and years at this stage, so it's cool to see Formal Lens like have a top 3 winning entry.
Yeah, I agree. I really loved this film. I think it was just like really well put together, and like I feel like it's a film that kind of understands the kind of genre that it's kind of influenced by and sort of doing, which is obviously important. I think that like it's very easy to kind of look at like the surface level kind of aesthetics and kind of I guess sort of cliches of like a film noir and think that's just what film noir films are. But like this,
but it's pretty common in Brick filming to see films that are evoking tropes of film noir, but like not to bring the snob out, but like you can tell that they haven't actually watched any film noir films. They're just working on a general sort of knowledge of cliches. But the telltale sign that this is a pet peeve of mine is that they don't have dramatic lighting. They just have flat brick film lighting. So when I saw this one and it was like doing the noir thing, but it actually had dramatic lighting, I was like, okay, he knows what he's doing. He's got it right. And of course, it's in 4:3.
Yeah.
Very important.
I think the lighting in this is
Yeah, absolutely.
like impeccable almost, because I don't know, like there's this particular shot where the guy dies on the table. Looks like a movie poster. Like, I'm amazed.
Yeah, you can clearly tell that there's like a couple of shots, like he was obviously spending a lot of time just getting the positioning and the lighting perfect. Like, yeah, we were talking about having the one sort of standout shot, but this definitely has. I mean, even if they don't have like as extensive like camera movement, not super long shots like the ones we were talking about, this has multiple shots where it's like you can tell he was spending a long time making sure that was right.
Yeah, I think this is another film that must have like he's just been working really hard to kind of like quite close to the deadline, because it feels like there's a lot to it, you know.
That's true. It's pretty long.
Yeah.
Especially with the amount of like, you know, like the quite complex, you know, film in terms of cinematography and like, you know, obviously lighting as well. Like there seems like there's a lot of, you know, work being put into the setup of like all these shots and stuff. And I also really like the sound design as well, like the way it sounds like an old film.
Oh yeah, I love that. Yeah, voice kind of like it was like from a radio or something.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking it is kind of funny. Like, I call this a pretty long film, but it's like only 3 minutes. It's not actually that long, but like in BRAWL, it is pretty long.
Yeah.
and yeah, a lot of camera angles.
That shot, I think, like really does evoke the kind of like feel of like film noir, where, you know, he stabs him and it cuts to this like shot of the money, and it's like the blood. And like, yeah, it's just like, just like a real understanding of like what the kind of like genre and like vibe that, you know, he's evoking. It's really good.
Yeah, showing through implication.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, and the shot with like the mirror. Yeah, I just like admiring individual shots because they're amazing.
Yeah, individual shots. Yeah. I do actually quite like that you can see the wire on the light. You know, I like when people actually leave the wire in, and like, you know, it makes sense because obviously lamps have wires, so yeah, there's no obligation to like scrub it down to the last pixel. But yeah, I did feel it did work well with the, like, I guess like Rashomon style story, but it didn't feel like he's just, you know, repeating the same footage just for the sake of, you know, extending the length of the film.
Yeah.
Like, it was changed up enough, that it didn't just feel like you're watching the same thing again.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is like that is kind of the point of, like, I guess, like Rashomon, the sort of storytelling, isn't it? Is that like you're seeing, you know, a completely new way of experiencing the same kind of events, isn't it? And I think the fact that it's like, there's not like, it isn't like a bunch of people, like, you know, it could have been like a bunch of characters, like, or like, oh, and this happened, where I feel like it's nice having that kind of, like, you know, it's more stripped down and but like, you know,
even to go back to number 13 for a moment, Echoes of Humdrum Existence, like, that one is much more obviously, like, you know, the guy waking up and doing the same thing every day. But like, even that one, it's always cut differently every single time, and like, you know, shows things a bit differently or in a slightly different order. Like, he never just copy pasted the same like lineup of footage to do the next day, you know. And I feel like that's a really good way of achieving that way of storytelling.
Well, I think it's like, you know, see, when you're showing something like that, like a, you know, repeating thing, it's still got to you know, each time, you know, evoke something that's like unique about, or like, you know, sort of is sort of like adding to it, you know, and like it, you know, there should be a reason for it to kind of like still be repeating, and like it should change how you feel about the film and the story, details like that, I think it's appreciated if you know, you kind of do appreciate when like you see it, you know, you see when you kind of
like you don't feel like cheated when you watch it.
Yeah, you don't feel like they're wasting your time. Let's continue on to second place, Vibrant by Chazen.
I really like this one.
So so I think there's a lot of details to this, like the way that like I think I didn't even realize it the first time I was watching it, but like the, you know, the way that the kind of like the color, it kind of is, it's obviously it's made to, you know, have that kind of color bind kind of look, but also the color is slowly kind of like, you know, sucking out, it's sort of being sucked out as the film kind of progresses, and really kind of just a meaningful use of color. And really sort of thinking about like the palette, I guess, which is something that I think we kind of have mentioned like recently on the podcast, maybe, about the idea of like the caring about color, color palettes. And yeah, I mean, it's basically, this is a Brick film about that, essentially. And it's nice to go and see Chazin place highly. I think came second place in
third in TAC, I think.
Third, yeah.
So it's, yeah, it is always cool to see somebody like rising the ranks in the contest over time. And like, especially, I couldn't believe just how many setups there are in this. Like, there's so many sets, and you can, like, if you look at it with that in mind, you can tell that he's doing what's good to do in Brawl entries. Like, the sets are
minimal.
There's not a lot of bricks in each set, but like, there's so many of them. You just have to, okay, it's time to start a new setup.
There's like one shot where he's like keeps cutting while he's walking. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 8 or 9 if I can count. Wow. Yeah,
like, I'm always thinking to myself, like, how can I reduce the number of sets needed down to the barest minimum? But like, in this, it's so impressive that he built everything that was needed to make it the way it is. And of course, it's 4 minutes long. It's not even 3 minutes long, it's 4 minutes long.
Again, it's like those sort of things when I'm so kind of like invested into something, I'm not even considering
you
like
don't
that
even
kind of
think
thing of
about
like,
oh
wait,
anymore.
you're saying like there's all these like sets and everything, like.
That's true. I mean, that's the stuff I was only thinking about, that like rewatching it, because the first time I was watching it, I was just enjoying watching it because it's just well put together.
But I mean, you think about it like, I mean, we were doing all this, we were doing this at the same time, like, doing the forward, and like, I like like literally, like think about it, it's like cutting through, as you were saying then, like all these sets, like, that's a lot of effort to just like have like 5 frames of animation or whatever it is, but like I do love that, having all those sets where it's like, and it may just be like, very basic, but we have like a doorway and a couple of like small things in the background, but like I think that I don't know, it works, it's effective, I think.
And it's like, I guess similar to what we would have said about the TAC entry, but like, it's just very well directed visually.
Also as well, he's using the same torso that that I used for the supermarket like staff, and I like to imagine that this is like the same supermarket. I might have to ask Chazin if he approves of that. I like to imagine it's the same.
The Brawl cinematic universe. But it is kind of weird to like think that like, oh, there's so many sets and all that, but then at the same time think like it's very economic filmmaking in a good way, like showing things visually and not requiring like excessive, like super amazing animation, but like, you don't even notice certain shots where you wouldn't think about that there's like maybe no animation in some of the shots, but like, just because the shots themselves are telling the story.
I mean, as well, I mean, I do love just like, the cinematography is in this is great. I really love just like what he did with that, and also like some of the sets. I mean, I really love that shot where he's like washing up in like the kitchen. That's a really lovely shot, and it has that kind of like the set design. It kind of reminds me of Trick or Brick, where they're really detailed, intricate sets that are like very brick based, very kind of blocky, and I really like that kind of aesthetic.
And of course I'd have to imagine that he's like approaching the set design knowing he's only going to have one single camera angle for a lot of the sets, and just building as much as he needs.
I also I do like that it's quite a kind of conceptual, kind of, I guess, up to interpretation, like the way that comes towards the end. I don't want to say too much about like what our interpretations are on that, because like I think when you're trying to go into that, it kind of like you don't want to come up with a definitive answer to that, but I do like that it has kind of
I love the ending.
An interesting ending.
I think I'm a sucker for whenever people do like
ambiguous endings.
Well, not even that. That sounds kind of posh. I just mean like it's it just kind of switches all of a sudden, and you're left in like something that seems like really profound, or beautiful actually, because that shot also with the back there, like he's walking in, and it's got like those lens flares and everything. I think that's a beautiful shot with the music too. Very well done.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of great films that will leave you with an ending that kind of just makes you kind of just think like, yeah, I don't know if I fully understand just yet, but then it leaves you thinking about it, and you kind of finish that film with a completely changed view of the entire film.
Yeah,
in the best way
like
possible.
You thought it was going to be one thing, and then, bam, amazing.
Yeah, I think that's it's a really effective when done well. Like obviously it can be done in a way that doesn't work, but like I think when done well, it's a really effective way of telling a story. I think, especially love the vibrant kind of like purple kind of light as well.
Yeah.
That final shot. It really, after the kind of like the sort of slow kind of like decolorization of the rest of the film, seeing that kind of, I guess vibrant shot is
and the music
really quite effective.
Even though it appears to be royalty-free music, it's pretty good. I like it. Good choice.
Yeah, if you just pick the right thing, then it can work perfectly.
Yeah, actually, I was actually really happy with the not to talk about my film again, but I was really happy with the stuff that I found. Actually, they kind of just fit perfectly for what I wanted.
But before we get on, before we start backtracking and ramble on about our own films again, let's move to first place.
Sort of. I mean, there's still someone here who's going to talk about their own film.
Yeah, but for the sort of for the first time, but not really.
Yeah. So, do you want to kind of like introduce your film?
Yeah. So, first place is Endless by BrickTavernFilms, which is me and my brother. I don't know. I don't really know what to say about it other than I was just inspired by like the found footage genre that's kind of creeping up now. But I also like classic Lego themes, so I like the Aqua Raiders thing and just like submarines. I think it's cool. Never really dipped my toes in that, so yeah, tried to just make a underwater brick film. And yeah, this is how it turned out. Yes, thank you. Yeah, I think I was like I wanted to do found footage or like some sort of like analog type horror kind of thing. But then we were just running through the catalog of ideas in our brains, and like, oh, submarine, that kind of fits and isolated, So yeah, it kind of works with that.
Yeah, I do kind of feel like we haven't mentioned it so far, but the playlist was plagued with alarm clock sound effects.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, if there's something that's super common in the playlist, I think like, to be the person who places highest with that thing is like somewhat of an honor. Like I'm looking at my entry like, yes, I'm the highest placing one with an office scene.
I didn't even pick up on that actually. Like, yeah, alarm clocks. I see that now. Yeah, must be annoying.
Yeah. So congratulations on managing to place first, despite the alarm clock sound effect.
Yeah, and hope.
It is funny. There's actually, I think there were a couple of Brick films that had the exact same build for the alarm clock.
Yeah,
as
I noticed it.
Which is kind of funny.
Humdrum.
Use it as a mod element.
Same thing. Except instead of like by 3, it was just by 2. I thought that was an interesting coincidence. But
I do want to just confirm that like this film does in fact work really well in 44p.
Okay, good. Glad to know. Let me try it out because I didn't actually. Yeah, it looks pretty cool. But I couldn't afford to actually upload it in 144 because then I would lose all my precious work on putting details in.
Yeah, I am slightly getting that feeling of like, oh, we should be talking about how amazing that central shot was, and we should be talking about how amazing all the tracking of the screens is. But wait, we already did that.
Yeah, we kind of already did.
Or the sound design. Oh, we already mentioned that too.
Let me think.
The ending was great.
Did I say everything I wanted to?
The way the ending just like hangs and has the sounds.
Yeah, like just leaves you thinking, like, oh, creepy.
Yeah, I think it was kind of like on edge at the end. I was like waiting for like, was there something was something going to creep out? Was there going to be like a big like jump scare, you know.
Oh, I thought it was great that it didn't. Like,
Yeah, no, I think that's that. It's I think it's very satisfying the way it ends.
I guess you might almost consider it a risk, but no, I thought it was actually a successful ending where it just cuts and ends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I strongly feel that less is more with this kind of stuff. It's like you don't know like what's out there. Just your mind racing about the possibilities is more scary than actually answering that kind of question.
Oh yeah. You don't want the answers. I don't think, you know.
Yeah.
They're just like that would not be. Yeah, that you want the mystery, and you want to kind of like not know, you know. I think it adds so much to like what your brain kind of concocts in this sort of situation.
I absolutely loved the set when you can see the guys asleep in the bunks, and like just all the stuff on the walls. Like it just looked so detailed. So much effort went into it, especially for BRAWL.
I think we built a ton of greebling and just pipey things and just threw them in, but like, with a little bit of care as to it looked good, because I mean all the effort went into that one main set, and then we kind of just rushed the other shots, but I think not too rushed.
I mean, the others look great as well.
I don't think it was too rushed.
I think as well, like I really like how like everything, all the pipes and everything. It kind of looks like I can imagine these things having a function.
Yeah.
You know, within the actual thing. I do as well. I really like that shot. So it's just like really, really kind of simple. You just got like it's underwater, and you've got the sea, like the seaweed and the rock that kind of goes past, and like it's really simple, but it's just like it works so well.
Yeah, that was actually I was thinking about we were just gonna have underwater, but then I was like, okay, you can't really tell that you can't see anything because I don't know. There's like no frame of reference, so if you have a plant pass, then you can tell like you really don't know what's out there.
I also like I really love as well, like looking back now at the alarm clock, the way that like it's very subtly the red light is very subtly bleeding out.
I put a glow.
Like that's like again, little details like that just add so much.
I tend to put glows over everything now because I feel like it just looks better. But
especially in camera.
I did want to say on a technical level, like it's still on lighting actually. Those just for anyone interested, the blue light that's like hitting the windows. It's an interesting technique that we employed. It's basically you have a blue flashlight, you shine it through a glass like for drinking that has like some sort of pattern on it, and then you just rotate the glass so that you get like a bit of a water effect. If anyone was wondering, because I don't know, just thought of it. Oh, great idea! It kind of worked. Yeah,
I'm gonna have to keep that in mind. Yeah, I did absolutely love the lighting in that shot when, you've got the strong blue coming in the circular windows and the flashing red light timed with the sound.
Yeah, and that red light,
it's fantastic.
Kind of a pain. We had to build a set so that we don't have very good lights. We have like whatever we have, so we have this like big red light thing that we had to just build a set around to fit in.
And even the lights coming in the grates.
Oh yeah,
just at the top of the frame.
So built a little bit of a roof. I'm not sure where those lights are coming from. I think that's just like a very diffuse light on a wall. Like I don't think that's. I'm not sure.
I also I do like the. I only just realised this now. Like looking at that the bedroom scene. I like the coping with a high IQ book. It's in the book.
Yeah, these submarine guys are pretty smart.
But I like what you said about using the plant floating by as a frame of reference. I feel like that's another good, very sort of a good tip to keep in mind. That's like you barely think about because it's such a subtle little touch, but like
it's like
some class of something in the shot to just give people the reference. Yeah,
it makes you aware that if there was something in front of you, you wouldn't know.
Actually, how did you achieve that shot? Was it a green screen or with the
while my brother was animating, I just figured, okay, I could probably do this myself. So I opened up a red screen because I was going to do a red screen so that it's because blue is kind of greeny and like I just thought red would be a good color. So I did a red screen and I just filmed me holding the plant, just just moved it across the screen, like past the camera, like just on my phone. And then I figured that would be good enough. So then I just keyed that out and like put it in and tried to make it look good, and it turned out to look pretty good.
Yeah, I really like. I think especially it works so well with the kind of like implied kind of like, I guess, lower quality of the the kind of found footage image where it's just like, yeah, you can't see anything else. It's just like black.
Yeah. And like
I really like that.
I filmed it with my phone, like with the flashlight on, so that it looks like it's actually coming from a camera that's like shining light out, like with headlights, you know.
Headlights, yeah.
Yeah, so that worked better than I thought.
I mean, yeah, it is so funny just how much thought goes into such a small detail that just, you know, slides by the screen for a couple of frames, but like it makes all the difference.
Yeah, it does.
The shot just wouldn't have the same effect without it.
Yeah, I mean, it was sometimes you rush things and it just works. I just rushed it. It took like 30 minutes and then it just worked.
And I do like talking about stuff like that because, you know, it would be so easy to not think about, but when you actually point these things out and get people to talk about, you know, just how much they put into it and the reasons why it's there and stuff, like, you know, hopefully it'll actually get people to think about similar things, making their own films.
Yeah.
I was really impressed by the way that, like, I know we've talked a lot about this shot, but like how you gonna like
I mean, it's
go
such a good shot.
From one room to another in a brick film form. It's
Couldn't
just like,
believe that. I thought for sure it was about to cut, but then it went through to the next room. It was so crazy.
So the door and the wall that's connecting, that is the door frame, that was built really easily so that we could take it off. So he just got as close as he could, looked down a bit, opened the door, and then he goes through, and then like just the second you don't see that wall anymore, just take it off. We just took it off, and then we continue. Yeah. And then I think for the camera to turn and then to look down the platform, we had to take like all different kinds of walls off, just so that it fit, because the camera is pretty big actually. And
especially when you're within the actual, and having to animate within the sets like that.
Yeah, it was like borderline, like basically almost touching everything as it went down. And
it does make me think that, like, if you manage to do it right and get the lighting and settings right and all that, the webcam probably is the optimal way of shooting brick films.
Probably.
I'm always talking about wanting to go back to it and have better lighting and stuff, and I never do it, but this makes me want to go back to the C920.
I do admire how good stuff looks though. Like, even though we spent a lot of time on this lighting, like just for the big shot, I would say we spent like 2 hours getting the lighting, but better cameras do pick up light better, I would say. But
yeah, it is probably the sort of case where if I went back to the webcam now, I'd be missing all of the features of the DSLR.
It's hard to make up our mind.
There's a perfect combination somewhere. Like, but you know, there's a way. Maybe there's a way you could make a DSLR with all the benefits of a webcam, or vice versa.
Yeah, somebody needs to just make a teeny tiny DSLR with the same image quality.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
The one thing I'd love if there was a webcam that had deep focus.
Yeah. Or like if you could fit lenses on there, that'd be great.
Yeah. I mean, you can get filters and stuff, but yeah.
Well, okay. I don't know. I don't really test all that stuff. I just work with what I got.
I never tried that when I was using the webcam, but if I went back to it now, I probably would mess around with filters, see what can be done. I mean, of course, it can focus pretty close. You don't really need a macro filter, but I don't know. I wonder if there's some sort of long lens filter for a webcam.
I mean, like, you couldn't do something to the degree of that. Like, that film with the humdrum experience to the turkey leg. Like, I'd love to do something like that.
Yeah.
But of course, that's going to cost you over $1,000 unless you get a really good deal secondhand.
I really like the idea.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But achieving that is another thing. So.
Yeah.
But even if you had a probe lens, you couldn't like move it through the set like in this.
Yeah, I suppose, unless you're breaking the set as you go, which I did not want to do.
Yeah, unless you just came up with a way to move the entire set around the lens, but then you'd have to make sure all the lighting is 100% attached to the set if you're going to move the set.
Yeah, I'm not ready to try that. I'm sure somebody...
No, it seems like the only practical way to get that shot is to be moving a webcam around.
And thinking if I said everything I wanted to about this. The
Well,
video,
I'm glad we did find the plant to talk about. After having already talked about the amazing shot and the set design and the sound design, it's like, well, we've still got the plant.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, fantastic. I mean, amazing film, and like, yeah, I mean, I don't say this lightly, but like, yeah, it's definitely on my, like, you know, top Brick films of 2022 list. Definitely.
Yeah,
thank you.
no doubt. I mean, yeah, like when the results were being announced, you know, people were saying like, well, when it got to first place, everyone was like, well, we know what it's going to be.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if you are a member of the Brickfilms guilds.
I think so.
But what you should do, you should totally join Brickfilms guild and submit your film to the awards, because I feel like it would do well.
The annual awards,
Okay,
yeah.
I'll look into that. I think I'm a member, but I'll check. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, usually towards the end of the year, like, I don't know, October or November, they'll announce, like, you know, that they're accepting submissions for the annual BFG awards. So
Okay.
yeah, you should definitely submit this. I mean, I guess actually no, the Batman film is probably going to be too long. It'll break the time limit for the awards. So yeah, I guess you might as well submit this one.
Yeah. Oh, that's assuming my Batman film even comes out. Takes absurdly
This
long.
year,
Yeah.
Well, we look forward to it whenever it does come out.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah, I look forward to
Sure.
finishing it.
I look forward to starting my film as well that I'm about to do, and finishing that in like a year's time if I'm lucky. But that's being, you know,
That's very optimistic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm doomed to curse myself. I've cursed myself now.
Exactly.
This summer is kind of a miracle, honestly. Like I had a lot of time to work on it, and usually, like throughout the year, I've like the amount that I work on it is like only minutes, and then this summer is just for whatever reason I got time, and it's progressing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But yes, big congratulations on the win, and of
Thanks
course, I mean, it's great to see you entering Brawl for the first time. Hopefully, not the last time.
Hopefully, yeah. It was fun. Besides the lack of sleep, but yeah, it was fun.
Well, that's
Yeah, it
part
is
of the fun. As long as you don't go too far with it, that's part of the fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's all worth it in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now you get a call against that.
Yeah.
I don't know. There is something nice about the sort of camaraderie of everyone going through the same struggles.
Yeah, hard times.
Yeah, I totally feel like I think it's like something that like always try to kind of reassure people. I want to say reassure people, but remind people of, I guess, in a way, like, you know, for anyone who didn't make it into the top 20 or whatever, like that completing a film is like, you know, within the time frame of BRAWL was such an achievement.
And just having that shared experience.
And yeah, and I think like I think it's a thing of like it never becomes easier. Like, I don't think, like, in no matter how many times you've been, you know, taking part in it, like,
Well,
it
becomes harder.
yeah, totally, totally. And it's like, you know, you get into the top 10 once, and then you're like, how do I get into the top 10 again? You know, but no, I mean, it's not all about that. It's not about that, really. It's
I
about,
guess it is
like,
kind of weird. Like, it becomes harder for you to make stuff, but I guess you could say it becomes easier for you to make something that's like has chance of ranking, because you've picked up enough filmmaking knowledge over the years.
Yeah.
So it's a
sure.
weird trade-off, I guess. Where if you do manage to, you know, pull something off, you've got a pretty decent chance. Like, you know, if you've been around for years.
For sure. I mean, I think that yeah. I mean, obviously, it's kind of keeping at it and you know, sort of being proud of what you make, you know, regardless of, like, you know, whether it places or not, or how far it places, whatever. Like, I think it's you should feel like you've achieved a lot by completing a film in a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
But with that being said, congratulations for first place.
Thanks again.
Yes. With all that being said, something to be proud of for sure.
But yeah, I guess we kind of are we wrapping up, I suppose?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, cool. Well, yeah. Thank you so much for joining us, and yeah, congratulations.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.